Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to your Mercury Retrograde specials. So, this one I really knew that I needed to put out because there's a few things about this Mercury Retrograde that are very different from the last time we had a Mercury Retrograde in the sign of Pisces. Second, it's also worth noting that this is going to be a rather interesting affair. So, with that said, welcome. I'm Raphael. Welcome to the channel. If you are new to my channel, I am a tarot reader, astrologer, numerologist, and energy worker. For those of you that are continued subbies, you know Rafi loves you. Thank you so much for being here. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. So, with that said, let's get straight into it. So, Mercury's retrograde is going to start at 22 degrees of Pisces and it's going to retrograde all the way back to 8 degrees of Pisces. And it's going to sit directly on the North Node as it stations to go direct. From the 26th of February right the way through to the 21st of March, Mercury is going to track backward. Also, it would appear to us from Earth, and it reminds us that it's time to really finish or revisit things from the Pisces, the Gemini, the Virgo parts of our chart. Why? Because Mercury rules both Virgo and Gemini, obviously, with blessings coming in from the Cancerian area of our chart because Jupiter is going to connect to Mercury in this Mercury retrograde. And obviously, so we're going to get blessings from the Pisces area. And because both of these planets are going to connect whilst retrograde, this is really interesting because it means that in some way, shape, or form, blessings from the past or things that we thought, opportunities, people, connections that we thought were closed or closed off or no longer available to us suddenly become viable once more. Mercury is both in its full and in detriment in the transit through Pisces, and it's famously a challenging time for communications, conversations, all of those things. You probably noticed before Mercury even started going retrograde that your tech went a little bit wonky. You've had glitches and all the rest of it. And a lot of that is because Mercury is in Pisces. It doesn't function so well there. However, this one, and trust me, I'm not a massive fan of a Mercury retrograde in Pisces. I'm really not. But this one I don't think is going to be as bad as we're expecting because all of the usual rules obviously are going to apply. So especially as it relates to things like factual evidence, hard-based things, and also technology. So Mercury deals with the facts, it deals with information and all manner of communication flowing backwards and forth. So Mercury also rules money, it also rules transactions, commercial activities, and sales. And in his transition through Pisces, this is a really great time for you to delve deeply into the artistic sphere and also to let the words unspool in your mind so that it's a great time then really to write music, to write songs, to write poetry. And it's even a fantastic time to utilize and rely more heavily on your intuition. Since Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Pisces, this is really where the information needs to come from. This is a time to trust yourself. The thing is, it's not like yeah, like this is intuitive, this is mystical, it's poetic, it's metaphorical, even metaphysical. This Mercury retrograde, even more so, I would say, is probably the realm of the high priestess in tarot. So if you know anything about tarot cards, then you know that the high priestess does not communicate in words. So anyone that ever tells you that she told me this or she told you that, I'm a bit skeptical about that. What she will do is give you thought, impression, feeling, the touch on your skin, the hair standing up on the back of your neck. She'll give you allegories and metaphors. She doesn't speak in direct sentences. This Mercury retrograde is going to be very much like that. And one of the greatest messages that the High Priestess gives us is to trust yourself and to trust your intuition. That being said, it's going to spend an unusual amount of time here and in the sign of, therefore, in the sign of Pisces, because it remains in the sign. So there's no cross barrier action going on between this one. So it's going to allow you to delve even deeper than usual to really understand what's what, but at those deeper, intuitive, sort of soul and psyche levels. I think this is a wonderful time for that, actually, understanding yourself at a deeper level, to plumb hidden depths of soul and psyche and even deeper spheres of existence, because Pisces is about what comes next, what is the afterlife, what happens to the soul after we die. All of those kinds of things are very much found in the Pisces trope. That being said, let's configure. I was going to say think and consider, and they somehow got smashed. So Pisces is that's right, totally on brand for a Mercury retrograde. Interestingly enough, I've noticed as well that I personally, I don't know about anybody else, but I sometimes stutter, especially when it happens in the air signs and in my ascendant sign. I found that a lot, and I find myself getting really tongue-tied during a Mercury retrograde, and interestingly enough, a Mars retrograde as well, which I'm going to talk to you about shortly. The 12th sign of the zodiac, right? Pisces, the mutable water sign. It's fluid, it's changeable, it's malleable, it's adaptive, escapist, dreamy, mystical, boundary-less, right? And can even be secretive. People talk a lot of smack about Scorpio energy because it's secretive and mystical and taboo. But trust me when I tell you, Pisces does have a very sneaky side to it. Don't ever overlook that because it will trip you up every single time. Just because somebody is sensitive doesn't mean they can't be an asshole. All right, excuse my language. No shade to all of the Pisces. You're not all that way, but I'm just calling it as I see it and as I know it. All right. Now, that aside, what happens when the Lord of Facts, haste, and speed comes into the sign of sacrifice, mysticism, the ocean, escapism, dreams, spirituality, and the hidden? Well, it makes for a very interesting time, that's for sure. To outline, and as I was saying, like there are some really constructive ways that you can use a transit like this, and I'm hoping to outline some of those for you. But I would urge you to really try and think about keeping your wits about you and ask yourself, what are the things that you do that you know hold you back or get in your way in some way, shape, or form? It's also a really good time for you to ask yourself, where are your boundaries? Do you even have any? What is the creative streak within you behaving like? Like, how does your creativity come through? Is it in words? Is it in pictures? Do you see colors? Do you hear songs? Like you guys know me, right? I read tarot, I read astrology, and every so often I will just randomly burst into song, or I'll say, oh my God, I'm hearing the lyrics of this song. That happens to me quite a lot. Is it a raging torrent, or is it a dried up riverbed of parched life? What is the state of your creative nature? Because this is something to really think about at this moment in time. Now, while a Mercury retrograde in Pisces can be a bit of a chaotic time with communication, and especially with technology being all over the place, it's also a time where the facts and figures are skewed or distorted in some way, shape, or form, where the logical and the transparent aren't as present as we would like them to be. So we will need to listen deeper than usual with our inner intuitive and even machine faculties, right? What am I talking about? My machine faculties. Your body. It's so fucking clever, guys. Your physical being knows stuff, right? And it's so interesting. It's like you don't have to sit there and think, oh, I'm choking, so I should probably react to that now, right? Your body does it for you. It immediately starts to spit things out. When you get something in your eye, before you've even put your hand to it, it starts to water, right? So that it can push the foreign body out. Your body, your physical being, guys, is so clever. It's so intuitive. It's how you can wake up from like a dead sort of sleep and just go into warrior mode, like without even knowing what's going on. You're just ready, right? Because you hear a loud bang. And I talk about this one all the time just because I've seen it time and time again with parents. It's such an amazing and kind of really cool phenomena, right? And that is, I have seen parents, whether this is my own parents or people of children, hear, I mean, like a half a second cry of their child and be there awake, like bolt dead, ready to take on a bear without even blinking, right? Like, your body is so clever, it knows. So listen to it. So when I say listen with your machine faculties, if your brain is saying we are completely safe and we're supposed to be here, right? Well, Mercury's retrograde in Pisces, but your body and your gut are saying, get me the fuck out of here because I am not safe right now. You know what I'm going to do with Mercury retrograde in Pisces? I'm going to listen to my gut. Okay, listen to your body, listen to your intuitive faculties and instincts at this time, because they are what's going to get you through. This is a time to nurture those things, to listen deeply with your inner ears, and trust that whatever is being shared with you now is something that comes from a much deeper well of knowledge and information than maybe we usually have access to. This transit of Mercury retrograde begins very close to Venus, and she's going to be offering both support and ease, as well as a healthy dose of diplomacy and a healthy dose of creativity, and maybe even luxury as well. There's going to be a conjunction to Venus, a Cazimi, as there often is with a Mercury retrograde, a gorgeous and supportive trine to Jupiter, and then a conjunction to the North Node on this transit through this retrograde transit through Pisces. It won't be until April that Mercury eventually and finally leaves the sign of Pisces to enter the party that's going to be going on all up in the sign of Aries. I mean, like, listen, you thought we had some pileups of planets at the start of the year? Yeah, but baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. Just wait until you get, like, I mean, if you're anything like me and you like to look ahead and just see what's coming up in the year, check out April 15th. Okay, you're gonna see some shit then. Oh yeah. Now, the last time that we had this Mercury retrograde was 2019, and for me personally, it was fucking awful. I'm just gonna be totally honest and heads up about that. That said, this one is a very different kettle of fish for a few reasons. The first Mercury retrograde, and there's a few things to consider about this one. Before we get into that, I do want to mention my retrograde survival kit is now ready for your purchasing pleasure. There's a link in the description box below. You can go there and read all about it, what it is, what it's going to do for you, how it's going to support you. This is the culmination. I created the first one of these in 2019, interestingly enough, to help me deal with the Mercury retrograde. I remember thinking, I wish I had something that had given me a heads up and a way to work with this. It wasn't until 2020 that I took a specific type of energy work that I've built into this and added to it. So this has really been a work in progress since 2019. And I have finally, I don't want to say I've perfected it, but I've definitely created something that I'm extremely proud of. These are techniques that I myself use every time any planet goes retrograde. You're going to get the classical planets, you're going to get the outer planets. You can check it out. There's a link in the description box below. I would love for you to have this. And the beauty of it is it's inexhaustible. Once you have this, every time a planet goes retrograde, you are going to have this toolkit in your box so that you can absolutely smash and sail through these retrogrades. Now, is this to say that I never have any problems during a retrograde? No, but I can tell you that the emotional regulation that I have throughout these periods is way higher than I've ever had before. And I'm, in a sense, because the daredevil in me is kind of looking forward to this next Mercury retrograde in Pisces, because I want to see how far I've come, and more importantly, how the tools stack up against it. I'm very excited for that reason. Now, there are a few considerations, enough about that, back to this. There are a few considerations about this Mercury retrograde that I think are definitely worth looking at. And they are, the first is that Mercury retrograde, this is the first Mercury retrograde in 3 years that we haven't had Saturn in the sign. Now, we haven't had a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces in that time, so we couldn't really tell what it would have done, right? But we haven't had a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces without Neptune being in the sign of Pisces as well. And we've definitely had at least one of those. So this is a really interesting affair. And I think the reason I think this is so interesting is because it kind of suggests that now that we've had the Saturn and Neptune conjunction in the sign of Aries, it's not lost on me that we're having a Mercury retrograde in Pisces just after Neptune and Saturn have vacated the sign. And I say this because I think the fact that it's happening means we're going to be seeing the past and elements of the past very, very differently moving forward. And since this is the beginning of a brand new cycle, Saturn and Neptune have begun a brand new synodic cycle. It opens up a bigger question of how do we bring together things and people and situations and maybe even places and nations that don't usually mix. Well, I think this is likely in I don't know if you've seen, there's a film that Justin Timberlake is in called In Time. There's a scene right at the end of that movie where, I'm spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, I'm about to spoil the ending. So maybe skip past this bit, maybe by about 30 seconds so that you don't hear the ending. But basically, there's a part at the end where all of these people who are considered not, because they're not as wealthy or they don't have as much time, they're not allowed into certain places in the world. Well, that disappears when they just start flooding the timelines, and it's like suddenly everybody has. Imagine if everybody was a millionaire, right? Let's just put it that way. Imagine what happens then. The society that we've built really collapses, right? Like certainly in the way that it is in terms of hierarchy. So it kind of feels like that to me. Now, I also think this heralds a time where those who have been discounted, so people that are disabled, people that have learning difficulties, anything like that might be coming more to the fore, and where we as a society are going to be looking back at the past, not from the guise of like, oh, the past is so awful and all of these atrocities, but not really doing anything about it. We're going to be acting on the information that's been given to us about the past. This is where we're going to be doing something with it. Mercury then is going to see both the gathering of said information, the restructuring and the restoring of order and service and education, and what it means to lead. Yes, I know I'm still talking about Mercury retrograde in Pisces, but remember, Saturn and Neptune have had their conjunction in the sign of Aries at this time. So Mercury is taking our minds all the way back to the Pisces area of life, the world, our charts, our history, our collective history, because Pisces is also the collective subconscious. And by going back into that time, by going back into that space, I actually think it's going to help us really get clear on what we're, when you think about everything that's happening on the wider world stage now, rather than just taking that information and being like, oh, wow, that's awful, let me go back to doing what I was doing, we're actually going to be acting on that. And I believe that in the future, politicians will probably not be paid anywhere near as much as what they are now. If anything, it's their, time that their hands were kind of off of our money, so to speak. And we're going to see how that goes for humanity. And I think a part of the reason for that is that we're going to be defining and redefining what service truly looks like and who is actually offering that and who is not. And in a world where we are no longer being fooled by those things and we're really aware of who is doing things for the right reasons, because we're all that much more intuitive. If you haven't seen it, watch the Universal 9-year video that I put out in 2025 and watch the Universal 1-year video that I put out at the tail end of 2025. So the Universal 9-year was at the tail end of 2024. Watch both of those. There's so much more information about the intuitification of humanity, if you like. All right. So I'm now going to pull up the chart. This is where I should have pulled up the chart, but I was getting ahead of myself because I got really excited. So on the 26th of February, we have the beginning of the Mercury retrograde very close to that Venus. All right. So I love that she's exalted and that she's really adding her energy to Mercury. It's kind of like she's buffering him up, saying, little guy, don't worry, you're going to be all right. Or little them, little person, little they, whatever you want to call them, him or her, them. I get lost with it all, to be honest with you. Now, on the 28th, and before anybody comes for me in the comments, I beg you fucking don't. Trust me, you're not ready. Because I got plenty I could say. Okay. Now, that being said, on the 28th, Venus is going to conjunct Mercury for real, right? And then on the 4th of March, we're going to have, now this one on the 4th of March is just off the back of the eclipse. So it's worth mentioning. Yes, it will be slightly before that, but it's just because of the time of day that I've got it. But it's worth mentioning. And the reason I've talked about this one in all of the individual Mercury retrograde readings is because obviously Mercury is the ruler of that moon, and it's likely to be a very sensitive time because we're just off the back of an eclipse. The eclipse, it's going to be interesting to say the least. So I think it's worth looking at. Now on the 5th of March, we've got Mercury. Mercury's then going to trine. Mercury is going to trine Jupiter. Now, I say Mercury is going to trine Jupiter. You're probably looking at this saying, hang on, Raf, it's at 18 degrees. Because he's at 18 degrees and Jupiter is at 15 degrees, there's only a 3-degree orb between them. If you were watching at the beginning of the video, I said when we get into a 3-degree orb, that's when we can consider it being an actual conjunction or an aspect of exactitude. So it's only 3 degrees, which means throughout the days that follow, right, he's going to hit that 15th degree and they're going to be exactly trine to each other. All right. Now, on the 7th of March, let me go back a day, we've got the Mercury Cazimi. So the Mercury and the Sun are going to be sat at the same degree. And this is what we call Mercury at the seat of the Sun, or Mercury at the heart of the Sun. This is where a planet is refreshed, recharged, rejuvenated in some way, shape, or form. And it's also a time where brilliant ideas can come in, but we can't necessarily act on them at this moment in time, especially because Mercury is retrograde, unless you are a Mercury retrograde native, in which case, while the rest of us run around like headless chickens, you can get on with doing whatever you want to do. On the 8th of the month, oh, just look at it, darling. It's so gorgeous, right? We've got a grand water trine between a retrograde Jupiter, who is actually the ruler of this Mercury, because the ancient ruler of Pisces is actually Jupiter. So we've got a Jupiter in his exaltation. This is another reason I don't think this transit's going to be as harsh as the last one that we had. We're also going to have Luna, and yes, she'll be moving through the sign of her fall, I'm aware, but it's a grand water trine, right? Involving Jupiter, involving a Mercury retrograde. I think this is opportunities coming back on the table. It is fleeting. Remember, it's a moon transit after all, so they move very, very quickly. It's kind of like a use it or lose it. On the 11th of the month, we're going to have Jupiter, boom, go direct, right? Watch that once more, just in case you didn't see. You see how he's red, meaning he's retrograde, and then boom, on the 11th, Jupiter's number turns black, which means he is now direct, in direct motion. That's going to be welcomed by everybody, I believe. Now, on the 14th and the 15th, Mars and Mercury are coming into a conjunction. This could potentially be some challenging words. And as I'm saying this, there are 3 magpies on the roof in front of my window having like a literal right. So it would not. Thank you, nature, for confirming. Right. So it would not surprise me if there are some tough conversations coming up around this time for all of us in some way, shape, or form. Where is Pisces in your chart? What does Mercury rule? What does Mars rule? These are the questions to ask with a transit like that. Now, as we get to the 16th of the month, Mercury is going to be at 9 degrees. Now, as he moves forward, so at this point, Mercury is already, I mean, he's already stationing to go direct, but more importantly, he's at 9 degrees. The North Node is at 8 degrees. So as we move through to the end of the transit, which is to the 21st, so between the 16th and the 21st of March, Mercury is going to be sat on the North Node, which means from the 16th right the way through to the 21st, whatever big conversations are happening at that time, pay attention to them. Now, these conversations that are showing up around this time, and then look, on the 21st, Mercury goes direct, right? So on the 16th, He's going to hit 9 degrees, so he's very close to that north node. As we move forward, watch what happens. He hits 8 degrees, he's on top of the north node. Continue, he's slowing right the way down. Boom, the 21st, he goes direct, sat directly on the north node, which means fated communications or conversations in some way, shape, or form are coming in. Okay, now you add to this then, or should I say, let's go back to, let's take this back by some months and then by some days. What was happening for you? What conversations were you having between the 10th and the 12th of February? Why? Because Mercury's already passed over this north node around that time. So whatever conversations you were having the 10th to the 12th of Feb, you will be revisiting in some way, shape, or form, very likely at the tail end, or should I say around the 16th to the 21st of March. All right. So you can see the symmetry in that. So that was the overview. Stay tuned while we get into your personal sign Mercury retrograde in deep dive, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Now, that being said, remember, whenever I'm talking about astrology, you're going to be looking at this from your ascendant sign first, then your sun, then your moon. Women, you may resonate more with your moon sign reading. If you are a moon ruled person, you might resonate more with that moon reading. If you are a solar ruled person or a Leo, you might resonate more with that. Either which way, check them out for all three so that you get a clearer picture of how these are going to speak to you in some way, shape, or form. Remember that the retrograde survival kit is now out. Hit the link in the description box below so that you can check it out. All right. With that said, stay tuned. I'll see you in a moment. Before you get into your retrograde report, what I want to say to you is remember, whenever I'm talking about astrology, you're always looking at this from your ascendant perspective first, your sun sign second, and your moon sign third, unless you've got a stellium or unless you resonate much stronger with one, like if you're a Leo. Obviously, you really want to pay attention to where the sun is in your chart. If you're a Cancer, obviously, you really want to pay attention to where the moon is in your chart. But as a general rule of thumb, you always start with your ascendant sign first, then your sun, then your moon, because they represent different facets, different parts of yourself. And that ascendant energy is much more accurate, or your rising sign is much more accurate on the day-to-day level. Now, with that said, I also want to remind you that the retrograde survival kit is up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. I am so proud of this thing. It's been the culmination of like 6 or 7 years work at this point, and I am releasing it now because it feels like the right time to do so, and also because it's ready. I really hope that you love this. Now, it is an inexhaustible tool. This does not age, and you're not just getting the Mercury retrograde, you are getting all of the retrograde. So as part of the kit, you're going to see it. There are so many goodies in there. You're going to get energy work. You're going to get an incredible PDF. You're going to get a planetary prayer. You're going to get insights on the planets and their retrogrades from yours truly. And as I say, this does not age. You can use this time and time again. And some of these techniques are things that I have been using myself for retrograde periods for plenty of time. So with that said, make sure you check that out. If you want to book a personal session with me, you can do so on the link in the description box below. This Mercury retrograde starts on February 26th and is going to end on the 20th of March. And then it's going to station direct, or well, it will turn direct on the 21st. So basically on the spring equinox. It's a pretty big deal. So stay tuned while we get into your personal retrograde insights. Anyway, take care. I'll see you soon. Hi Aries, this Mercury retrograde for you is taking place in the deep, the mysterious, and the liminal space that is known as the 12th house. So Mercury is going retrograde from the 26th of February right the way through to the 21st of March. So this is kind of a part of your signature as well, even though it happens to go direct literally the day before, or actually the day of the spring equinox or the start of Aries season. I think this is really, really interesting, and I think it's going to be, it's definitely going to pack a bit of a punch for everybody, but I think it's definitely going to be a big part of what unfolds for you. So let's delve into this. So for you in your chart, Mercury rules your third and your sixth houses, right? So in your chart, Mercury rules both Gemini, and which is your third house, and also Virgo, which is your sixth house. So this Mercury retrograde is a pretty big deal for you. It's a pretty deep affair for you, Aries, as well, because it's taking place in the hidden and the silent 12th house. This is a spiritual house, and it's one that really, it's one whose intention is to bring liberation to the soul and psyche through the spiritual connection. Now, what this looks like, only you can really know, because this is the deep you. This is the you behind closed doors. It's your subconscious beliefs and patternings. It's the things that are in those liminal spaces that we're really not aware of. I will say that I personally do love Mercury retrograde, Mercury transiting through the 12th house, or people that have Mercury in the 12th. It's one of my favorite placements, because this is the mark of somebody that we call like a true psychic. This is where somebody really has that ability, right? Now, one of the things that I will say is it's also a very internal energy. So this is going to bring deep contemplative energy into your world. Mercury is like a microphone, right? So it's likely that in this Mercury retrograde transit, there's going to be many moments where things bubble up from the deep, where things from your psyche, things through your dreams. Pay attention to your dreams throughout this Mercury retrograde, because you're going to be getting a lot of messages through those. Now, in the 12th house, we find things like hidden enemies, secrets. We also and eventually find spiritual blessings and power that come from the other realm. So, since Mercury for you rules the third house of the mind, communications, conversations, right, it stands to reason that these will be things that come up for you in a big way. Mercury also rules communication and conversation, and in your chart, it definitely rules siblings, cousins, neighbors, and your local neighborhood, right? So the connections to and with and around these types of people are likely to be more to the fore at this time. It may even be that you are mending a situation with a sibling, cousin, or neighbor. That's also possible. Mercury, as ruler of your sixth house of your physical health and vitality, day-to-day habits, patterns, and routines. And since the 12th house is your spiritual and mental health, and the sixth house is your physical health and vitality, it stands to reason that you might be engaging in some form of practice where you kind of say, right, you know what, I'm going to get this health stuff under, under control or under my banner in some way. It's possible that the conversations, and even spends within hospital settings and situations, because the 12th house is also liminal spaces. It's prisons, ashrams, places that you go to for retreat. And if you find yourself feeling like you want to retreat more, that you want to be more reflective, more contemplative, that you want to do more journaling and stuff like that, this is absolutely the time to do it. Since the 12th house can also rule hospitals as well. And it may be that you're not going to hospital for yourself, but you're going on behalf of somebody else. So that's something to think about as well. Now, on the 26th of February, obviously, as this transit begins, it's very close to Venus. Now, Venus, obviously, in the sign of Pisces, is exalted, right? And the 12th house is a house of expenses. So it's possible that there could be some kind of financial aspect to this transit for you, and maybe even a completion of or around a larger transactional matter that's been stalled or has been on hold, or something in that regard. This might also come to light, like whatever the hold up was. So that's kind of on par for some of you that I know, actually. Now, on the 28th of February, Mercury is going to conjunct Venus. So the conjunction's highlighting a conversation with or around a partnership in some way, shape, or form. That could be personal, professional, or platonic. It could be to do with money or even with a significant other. While this can suggest the repair of a relationship, my feeling is that it will be a satisfactory completion. So, it's like whatever level or direction you're reaching for, it's like for all parties involved, everybody's happy with that. On the 4th of March, Mercury is going to oppose the moon. Now, usually, because the moon moves so quickly, I wouldn't really highlight this, but and even though it is a fleeting transit, we are just off the back of an eclipse. So the fact that this is coming up, I think is, I think it's going to have, because obviously that eclipse is ruled by a Mercury retrograde. Luckily enough, Mercury at the time is ruled by a retrograde Jupiter in the sign of his exaltation in Cancer. But even still, so this one, I kind of feel like the moon in Virgo will be, because it's just off the back of the eclipse in your sixth house. Pay attention to your health matters at this time, but also consider that when like when or what or something is removed, like pay attention to how much lighter you feel. Since Luna for you rules the fourth house of home, property, family, real estate, it's possible that something reaches a head in a home, property, or living situation, and it needs to be reconsidered in some way, shape, or form. Now, on the 5th of March, Mercury retrograde is going to begin because it comes to within orb. So if you've seen the beginning of this video where I go through all the transits with the chart and stuff, you'll be able to see what this actually looks like. Now, this Mercury retrograde will then start to trine Jupiter retrograde, who is retrograde in your fourth house. We love that. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so he's doing good work there, right? I do love this part of this transit because it offers a lot of support or protection. And it means that in some way, shape, or form, your home, your property, potentially your family, your roots, your home of origin, provides some kind of stability and protection. It could just as easily be because your fourth and 12th houses are being activated. Maybe there's something that comes up around, a monetary, blessing, a support, or something along those lines. It could also bring up things around an inheritance as well. That's possible. Now, on the 7th of March, we're going to have the Mercury Cazimi. So this is where Mercury comes into a conjunction with the Sun. This is always interesting, and this time it's wise to pay attention to your dreams, messages from spirit, or loved ones that have passed away. They could show up in full force at this time. The whole transit is really highlighting your intuitive faculties and abilities, and also highlighting your dreamscape. So pay attention to that because that realm is going to have a lot of messages for you at this time. Now, especially when it comes to ideas as well that come sort of seemingly out of nowhere around or on the day of the 7th. On the 8th of March, we're going to have a beautiful Grand Water Trine. It is a very fleeting influence. Remember, because the moon is involved in this Grand Trine, it moves really, really quickly. So it's kind of like a use it while it's there. If you do nothing with it, you get nothing from it, but you don't lose anything if you don't, right? We're going to have the moon in Scorpio. We're going to have Mercury retrograde in Pisces. We're going to have Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Cancer. This is across your 4th, 8th, and 12th houses. So it's possible that there is an inheritance matter that comes up or some kind of financial support that comes through the family, right? There's that same message again that seems to be coming through. At any rate, your well-being is enhanced, especially on an emotional and a psychological level. And you might be feeling that, right? Maybe there's a return to an even keel, but on the inner sort of plane or level in some regard. I also love that both of these energies could bring healing to you. So, as I say, just really pay attention to this. On the 11th of March, Jupiter is going to go direct in your fourth house. This matters because currently, with Mercury being in the sign of Pisces, Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. So the fact that Jupiter is going direct now means that Mercury is even more well supported in this regard. This day, as a part of this retrograde, things in both the 12th and the 4th house are going to start to improve from this moment forward. It's not going to be like, like you flip a switch, because obviously, Jupiter is now stationed direct and he's got to pick up speed to move forward. But I do love this. And I also think that things in your 3rd house and your 6th house, so work, local environment, siblings, etc., could also begin to improve. This part of it I actually think is quite deep, but it's also very protective. So on the 14th and the 15th of March, Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with your ruling planet Mars. These days, has the potential to be quite fiery. I will say that Mercury's usual miscommunication energy will probably be a little bit heightened at this time. It may also be that some form of a secret comes to light or some piece of information that comes to light. Because remember, Mars in your chart rules both you, but it also rules your eighth house of secrets. It's, in the sign of, it's in the house, the 12th house for you and in the sign of Pisces. So, and it's coming into a conjunction with a Mercury retrograde. My feeling is that something comes to light here. And when it does, I think you're going to be like, right, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm making different decisions from here on in. Whatever it is, I do feel like you should be mindful of how you speak to people at this time, because it's possible that you could end up saying something that you won't be able to take back. Since Mars is you, and it's, there's a very personal element to this part of the transit. So um, pay attention to what bubbles up as well, because you might start to realize like what it is that you've been holding on to all this time. Now, from the 16th through to the 21st, this is where this transit really starts to complete. But then on the 21st, when it does station to go direct, Mercury will be sat on the North Node, which means that as this transit completes, Mercury being on the North Node for an unusually long time, actually, it means that these days in particular are really going to have a very fated feel when it comes to communications, conversations, when it comes to matters around your third and your sixth house. So again, your work, your habits, your routines, but also your 12th house, big or large expenses, things that have needed to be closed down. I will say, think back to between like the 10th and the 12th of February. What were the conversations that you were having at that time? Because that was when Mercury first touched base with the North Node. So you might find that you're coming back to this, or it's coming back up in some way, shape, or form. Now, if you are thinking about this transit and you're in it, my retrograde survival kit is finally up and out there. I am so proud of this. It's like the culmination of 6, 7 years work at this point. And it really feels great to release this thing that I have been working on so that it can help you remediate your retrogrades, and also so that you can move through them with intention. The retrograde survival kit is not about you hunkering down and, saying some magic words and disappearing. This is about you becoming an active participant in transits that are going to unfold. And the beauty of this is the way that I've designed it, you will be able to use this for every single retrograde. I'm so excited for people to get in on this, because it's something that I put a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of love into. You're going to get planetary prayers, you're going to get energy work, you're going to get insights into what's going on with the planet, and you also get a sexy Raffy PDF that's got a whole bunch of information in it. So if you want to explore this personally, obviously you can get a reading with me, but you can also purchase the retrograde survival kit. There's a link in the description box below, and I will say I love this because it's literally something that will serve you for the rest of your days. Whatever retrograde comes up, you will have a tool that you can use. It is inexhaustible. All right. So with that said, enjoy your Mercury retrograde. Let me know how this shapes up for you. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi Taurus, welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So let's get into it. I do want to say, this Mercury retrograde for you is taking place in your 11th house, right? Of social networks, groups, connections, all of that good stuff. The 11th house is also your not your higher visions, but it's your long-term vision for your life. It's like where you really want things to go in your future. When you say, one day I'm going to dot, 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 that's you tapping into your 11th house. It's groups, group associations, your friends, friendship ties, friendship connections. It's all of those things and so much more. It's also benefactors as well. Now, that being said, Mercury is going retrograde from the 26th of February right the way through to the 21st of March, literally the same day as the spring equinox, which is really interesting as far as I'm concerned. Now, that being said, Mercury in your chart rules both your second house of your money, finances, and resources, also your self-worth, esteem, and your possessions. The fifth house, and Mercury also rules your fifth house of your self-expression, but it's also like your competitive energy. The fifth house is also your self-expression, your personal style. The fifth house is also joy, luck, creativity, speculative endeavors. However, the fifth house is a money house as well, especially if you are or have your own business. So a Mercury retrograde in the 11th is very much about groups, group associations that you're a part of, associations that you hold. It may be that you start to rethink your group associations at this point. It's friendships, connections to people that you consider actual, friends, but also acquaintances as well. Since this is also like what we call like a tribe house, there may be things around people that you're thinking at this time. So what I mean by this is you might start to sort of realize like, wow, actually, I think I've outgrown this friendship group, or actually, you know what, these people no longer resonate with me, or you may be reconnecting with friends from the past and maybe in some kind of unexpected way. Now, the 11th house is also people who assist or support you in some way, and it's a place of gains because the 11th house is the gains that you get from your career or your business. It's also like you might be rethinking your future trajectory at this time. So you might be changing, after this one, actually, you might be changing your direction, like where you want to go. The 11th house is things like social media as well. Now, Mercury, as the ruler of your second house, Mercury is a planet, is a money planet for you. Mercury is a money planet in general. And your fifth house of speculation, self-expression, it means that you could be realizing just how valuable what you have to offer really is. And it's like you start going around, going about changing something. And this could be a game changer for you because it's like you're looking at your future plans and saying, right, what I have to offer is worthy, is also valuable. So I love that for you. I think this also means that your future, like the future of your relationship with your children, because remember your fifth house is also children if you've got them, could be shifting in some way. It doesn't have to be in a bad way, but you might be peeling it back at this time and saying, actually, you know what? I think you're old enough to take on a bit more responsibility here. I'm not going to coddle you as much. I'm not going to be as available to you, right? Like I'm going to let you start figuring some stuff out. It doesn't have to be in a bad way. And remember, the fifth house can also be your personal business if you have one. Now, as this transit begins, it starts very close to Venus. So it starts on the 26th of Feb, and it starts very close to your ruling planet. And since Venus is you, and she's in the sign of Pisces where she is exalted, and in the 11th house, which is considered a gains and a lucky house, I think there's a nice little bit of protection here for you. Um, Especially because Mercury is being hosted or serviced by a Jupiter who, even though Jupiter's retrograde, he's also exalted in his sign of exaltation, right? So you've got Jupiter in his exaltation, you've got Venus in her exaltation. So this Mercury retrograde is not going to be like the one of 2019. Like I talked about this in the beginning of the video. So if you haven't seen the main breakdown, I go into, I look at the chart and stuff and I talk to you about that. But there's some important information in there. So do be sure to try and watch that as well. So it's very lucky and it's in the house of gains. And I will say that because Venus is there, women in particular, women friends, good and helpful women or, feminine people could be of a support system or network to you at this time. Since the 11th house is the house of gains, this could work absolute wonders for your money, even with Mercury retrograde. Yes, I know. Now, that being said, since Mercury obviously rules your second and your fifth houses, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of a glow up here as well. Now, I will say Mercury does like sweet things as well, as does Venus. So do keep that. You might find that throughout this sort of transit, especially as they come into a conjunction on the 28th of February, you might find that the sweet tooth is a little bit sharper than usual. Now, the conjunction is an extension of the magic, right? So pay attention to the women that show up for you around this time or that come back into your world. It's also possible that an important contractual idea or agreement with a business creative worker or support system might come up. Now, the next date that I've got is on the 4th of March. Mercury's going to oppose the moon. Now, usually I wouldn't highlight this because, it's lunar, she moves so quickly, like, it's a passing fancy, right? But we are just off the back of an eclipse. Like literally the eclipse is on the 3rd, this happens on the 4th. So I think because this unfolds across the 11th and the 5th, There are social considerations that come up, potentially some, challenging emotions or words with a child if you've got one. We are just off the back of that eclipse. And so the message becomes that after this eclipse, what do you know deeply that you are not able to accept anymore, and have conversations that are revealing, about or with actually your children or even your speculative endeavors? It's like there's something here that you kind of say, right, I felt this way for the last time. Now I'm gonna like really deeply review this. I'm gonna have the words that I need to have, and then I'm gonna move on from it. I also think this could be with your self-care at this time. So be honest with yourself about how good that is at this moment in time. On the 5th of March, Mercury retrograde is going to begin its trine to a retrograde Jupiter. I love this. I really love this. So this connection, because it's happening for you across the 11th and the 3rd houses, this could be really lucky. And I will say, pay attention to like wherever you're commuting, wherever you're checking in with friends or going to places with, people and situations in your neighborhood. Like there could be opportunities that show up for you here. There could be a chance to redo something or reintroduce yourself to your locality in some way, which could be really, really good. Now, I also like that Jupiter offers a sort of good level of protection here because it's in these 11th and 3rd. It might bring back old friends, old connections, maybe even old associations as well. Great time for healing and mending things, especially things that need fixing with words. This is where you might be able to really do that. So love that for you. On the 7th of March, we've got the Mercury Cazimi. This is with a Mercury retrograde. So I kind of feel like this might be a conversation or an idea that ties directly into the future that you desire to have. But it's like you come to realize like that what needs to be mended, acknowledged, or changed in some way for you to really succeed, right? For you to really find success in that direction. I think again, this comes down to the self-talk, but also it comes down to the alignment between what you want for your future and what has stopped you from achieving it in the past. I kind of feel like if you're really honest with yourself at this time and say, right, the reason I've never achieved this thing that I really, really want now is because of this, right? And the more honest you are about this with yourself, it doesn't have to be with anybody else. The more honest you are about this with yourself, and especially with your feelings, remember the sun in your chart rules your 4th house. So the more honest you are about how you feel about something, and like this could be, like I'll give you an example from my own life, right? The reason I've found it so hard to lose weight in the past is because I'm a sugar fiend, right? Like I will openly admit that. Everybody knows that. But if you dig into that and say, like, why are you eating so much sugar, Raf? And it's like, okay, well, it's a comfort, right? Like you've got to get into it and you've got to be really honest with yourself. For a lot of you, I think it will be deeper than that, I feel, but still no less valuable, in fact, probably more so. Now, on the 8th of March, we've got a beautiful Grand Water Trine. It is a moon in Scorpio. It is a fleeting experience. You do nothing with it, you get nothing from it. You do nothing with it, you don't lose out anything, right? But this is a Grand Water Trine, and I love these. And for you, it's across the social houses. So you'll have Jupiter in retrograde in the 3rd. You've got the moon moving through your 7th house in the sign of Scorpio, and then you've got that Mercury retrograde in the 11th house. This is social energy, right? You'll be connecting to all manner of people, personal, professional, platonic. It's fleeting, it's only a day, but this is a really good day to maybe to reach out to old people, old partners, old connections, old, like anyone from your past that you really want to reconnect with, but you will need to tap into the emotional current. All right, you can't just show up and be like, "Oh, hey, like, let's hang out." Like you're gonna have to. It's water, right? Like you're gonna have to dig into the fields, and it's the moon in Scorpio, so you're gonna have to be really honest about what your intentions are, because people will sniff you out, and then it's a wasted opportunity. On the 11th, Jupiter will go direct. I love this because it means that Mercury is even more supported. This transit matters because Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces, and obviously Mercury is retrograde in Pisces, so he's going to be much better resourced as we move through that. Since Jupiter is now direct and it's also sextile to your sign, whether this is your sun, moon, or ascendant sign, conversations, sales, and all manner of these matters are really going to improve exponentially, right? But it's going to take its time. Remember, it's now stationed direct. So as it's direct, you're going to have to give it time to get up to speed, but things will start to move forward now quite nicely. This is the last of Jupiter in his exaltation for the next 12 years. So I am going to say milk this one, right, between now and July. On the 14th and the 15th of March, we've got Mercury coming into a conjunction with Mars. This could be hard conversations, maybe even a reveal of some sort around a financial matter that really makes that really makes you kind of either angry or frustrated about something. And, because remember, Mars can be an irritant as well, but it can also spur us into action. And since Mars also rules your 12th house of hidden enemies and self-sabotage, it might be where you get a searing glance or insight into your self-talk and you're like, right, now that I know this, that's not happening anymore, right? It could also be that this could potentially be an argument with a friend as well, maybe with a sibling, maybe with a neighbor or a cousin. So be mindful of that because a situation could really bubble over. And remember, this is only really sort of 2 to 4 days that it will be sort of really active. So just be careful because if whatever you say at this time, you probably won't be able to take back. Finally, between the 6th, 16th, and the 21st, Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with with the North Node, right, in the sign of Pisces. So as this transit completes, Mercury is going to conjoin the North Node for an unusually long stretch of days, which means that you will want to pay attention to conversations with friends, with benefactors around your future goals and plans. Really listen to what's coming up at this time because this is fated conversation territory. Could be around money, it could be around your speculative endeavors or your business if you've got one, maybe even around or with your children. This could change your path in some way, shape, or form. Now, it really, the other thing is as well, because this is the 11th house, this could be where you start to realize, like, oh, this dream is not just a dream. Like, this is actually possible for me, and this is what it's going to take to make that happen. I love this. I love this for you. Think back to between the 10th and the 12th of February. That will give you a heads up as to what is kind of unfolding at the time, because that was when Mercury was last on the North Node. All right. Now, with that said, I want to tell you about the retrograde survival kit. If you want to explore this personally, you can book a session with me, but also you can get the retrograde survival kit. You can get ahead of this transit, and more importantly, you can get in ahead of all of the other retrogrades that are coming up as well. I love this because it's literally something that's going to serve you for the rest of your life. Whatever retrograde comes up, you will have this tool. It's inexhaustible, and it's the culmination of like 6 or 7 years worth of work for me. So I'm really, really proud of this. I truly hope that you guys love it. You're going to get energy work. You're going to get planetary insight. You're going to get planetary prayer. This is going to help you remediate and benefit the planets in your chart. And whenever they go in retrograde, you will have access to a tool that literally never ages. I'm super happy with this one. I'm very, very proud of it. So you can get that on the link in the description box below. You're going to have to let me know how this retrograde shapes up for you personally. All right. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi Gemini, welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So for you, this retrograde is taking place in your 10th house of career, social status, public self, how the world meets you. When people see your public persona, the 10th house is what they're looking at. This could be, it's also your relationship to authority. It can be a parental house as well. So that's even a consideration here as well. That being said, Mercury retrogrades are always that much more potent for you, whether this is your sun, moon, or ascendant sign, because obviously Mercury is you, right? Mercury rules your first house and it also rules the fourth house in your chart. So not only does it rule your identity and you and how you move through the world, it also rules your deep emotional self and your foundations, your roots, your history. And because this is taking place, this retrograde in the 10th house, it's going to be something that's shifting about your identity and also something that's shifting about your roots, your heritage, and your ancestry is shifting and changing in a very big way. You're rethinking yourself, redefining yourself by new standards at this time. Gemini, this transit always shows up for you that much more viscerally because obviously Mercury is your ruler. This one might be a doozy, but it doesn't have to be. While it is true that the ruler is not necessarily in great shape in the sign of Pisces, this one does have some really great support to it because obviously it's serviced by a retrograde Jupiter who is in the sign of Cancer. So, you know, Jupiter is well placed, which means Mercury is well supported, even if it is retrograde, right? So it's not going to be as bad as if you remember the Mercury retrograde in Pisces of 2019. Nasty business. Ugh. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Like that. Listen, I did not like them apples. Now, I will say this could be a time where you're like, it's suggesting that whatever you do set into motion, either now or rather a course correction on, it's likely to stick because whatever you're refining or redefining as your career, the magic is that it's well supported and also that the changes that you make will really help you clarify what you understand to be the path to look like for you for the foreseeable future. This is how you redefine, reintroduce, and reconnect with your public, with your fans, with your all of that kind of stuff. Now, since Mercury also rules your fourth house of your emotions, your foundations, your home, property, real estate, it might be that there's something like that you need to see through is within you, right? And so it's like it comes back into your life or it comes back into your world. So there's some support that needs to be given with your family or your familial ties. The fourth house is an occult house, which means that you have a chance here to get really clear on the emotional challenges to the success that you're trying to build out in the world. And I actually really like this for you. And the fact that this is all happening just before Uranus enters your sign in April, I think you're going to get a really deep clarity and maybe even a greater sense of the poetic and material stability that it needs to be incorporated. So as this transit begins so it starts on the 26th of Feb, it's going to end on the 20th of March, stations direct on the 21st. The fact that Venus is very close to this Mercury, Venus for you is obviously the ruler of your 12th house and your 5th house. So it means that you have a chance here not only to tap into her goodness because she's exalted in the 10th house in your career, it means that you're able to flourish, like you're able to flourish and nourish in your career in ways that you've been like have maybe been obscured to you previously by getting clear on what is important to you by way of your self-expression. Now, as Mercury comes into a conjunction with Venus on the 28th of February, so literally 2 days after it begins, the conjunction of Venus and Mercury are always welcome for money, and I really feel that this is a chance to invest in something, providing you really look at it objectively through an intuitive lens, right? Remember, this is an intuitive Mercury, not a logical Mercury, right? You really be able to clean up here. Since it's in the career sector, this is about what you want to share with the world and also what you're making public and what you're making visible. This matters, right? Because what you share is very likely to be something that you have already introduced or tried to shift the career towards. And it's like now it becomes possible because you're rebooting the career in some way, shape, or form. Now, on the 4th of March, we've got Mercury coming into an opposition with the moon. This is important because we're just off the back of a Mercury ruled eclipse. Usually you wouldn't pay so much attention to an opposition to the moon, right? Because it moves so quickly that it's like it's there 1 minute and it's gone. But this, because we're literally just off the back of an eclipse, I think there's going to be something in this, right? And this will likely be because it's happening across that fourth house, 10th house axis. So again, there's something to do with the home property, the real estate, the family of origin, and the career that are bumping up against each other. They're potentially even pulling you in two different directions. Since Luna rules your money and she is changeable, right? Like there's might be some conversation with a family member around money or a financial matter. Jupiter is also as well like in it's because it's an opposition, which means you and your career and your familial ties are activated. This is setting up as well what we call a T-square, right? So it's like you might need to consider that you yourself are the way through the challenge. Since Mercury is also the ruler of the ascendant, something about your identity might be causing a bit of a stir within or around the family. And it's up to you to really steer the narrative in the direction that you sort of decide or desire for things to go. Now, on the 5th of March, we've got Mercury retrograde coming into a trine with Jupiter. We love, love, love this because not only is Mercury supported by this Jupiter retrograde, right? Because Jupiter is well resourced in his sign of exaltation. Now they're going to be speaking to each other in a trine in a really harmonious connection. This, for me, is the best part of this transit. And the fact that Mercury is going to be trying to his ruler as Jupiter in that, sign of his exaltation means that not only is there support in a financial sense and potentially money flowing in via through the career, it means that there's likely to be a period where old opportunities and people from your past come up to support you. Jupiter rules your 7th and your 10th houses, which means old work connections, career connections might come up, old contracts could be on the table, new contracts or even current contracts could be renegotiated at this time for better rates, better interest, better, just better, right? Any work or financial matters could be a good point of discussion at this time. And as I say, that renegotiation energy is really, really tasty at this moment in time. Don't waste it. Now, on the 7th of March, Mercury is going to go Cazimi, so it's going to come into a conjunction with the Sun. Now, Mercury Cazimi is always a time where great ideas come to light. Write them down, capture them, talk about them with a trusted friend or advisor or a confidant. As the Sun for you rules your 3rd house of mind, communication, your skills, this is definitely the best way to go. Speak about the idea that you have. Even if you're talking out loud to yourself, it's still worth doing. It's also worth considering now that the intuition and the spiritual is what brings the most clarity and wisdom. So talk with siblings, maybe even cousins or neighbors, or even work colleagues that you trust, with spiritual advisors even, right? This might even be on the cards. Maybe you're getting a little reading with Rafi. That's also possible. As this Mercury retrograde is goes Cazimi, it's likely to be something about your local area or an opportunity from that that comes back up for discussion. On the 8th of the month of March, we've got this beautiful Grand Water Trine. Now, it is fleeting because it's lunar is a part of this trine, so it's kind of there and then it's gone. The moon will be in Scorpio, Mercury's obviously in Pisces, Jupiter's still in the sign of Cancer. This is a great day for any form of communication, conversation, interaction. This is 2nd, 6th, and 10th house. This is a money transit. You might reap a financial or professional reward of some kind. That's definitely possible. Since the moon rules your money and it's in the 6th house, discussions around work and finances are very likely at the time. Again, if you need to renegotiate, this is the time, right? This is the tap into the Jupiterian optimism as well, because that's what's really going to move the day. So, like, maybe you're just feeling really good and you go into your boss and suddenly say, like, dude, I'm really due a pay rise. Like, what you can do about this? And they're like, actually, I think you might be right. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can just be like, oh, okay. Uh, if you do nothing with it, you get nothing from it. If you don't do anything with it, you don't lose anything, right? As I said, because the moon is involved and she is in Scorpio after all, it's fleeting, all right? But it's still worth trying to tap into. On the 11th of March, Jupiter is going to go direct in your 3rd house, right? So we like that. Not your 3rd house, in your 2nd house, Jupiter's going to go direct, which means that Mercury is even better, well resourced, right? So it goes direct in your 2nd house of money. Opportunities that you set up from the beginning, from before, might start to move forward, especially in a monetary sense. Since Jupiter also rules that 7th house of relationships and also the career sector, this is like where opportunities that come through other people, right, through your connections, really begin to make their presence known in some regard. Now, on the 14th and the 15th of March, Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with Mars. Now, this is potentially some harsh words. It's possible that some of them could be coming from you because you are Mercury after all. Mars rules your sixth house and your 11th house. So this could be through friendship or around friendship ties. So be careful with that. If you have, yeah, anyway, anything online, right? Watch out because you could get into it with somebody in the comments and then be sat back thinking, like, yes, I toasted them, but I don't feel good about it. There's a very Five of Swords kind of energy about this transit for me. So I would say just be really careful. That said, it could be that you're feeling really ready to take action on something that you've previously been sort of dragging your heels on. And if you're redefining or redoing something that you like, and even if you were born with a Mercury retrograde, obviously that's fine. You can move ahead with whatever you want. But it's not really the time to embark on something brand new at the moment because you, and therefore Mercury, are still retrograde at the time. Now, as this transit completes between the 16th and the 20th, in fact, right through to the 21st, Mercury is going to be sat directly on the North Node. It's going to be there for an unusually long time. And this is in the 10th house. So, fated, destined communications conversations around your career, around some kind of career matter, could really come to the fore this time. And it's likely to be that whatever is coming up, it's highly visible, especially because it's in the 10th house. You won't have to guess with this, right? Like it will be very, very evident to you what this is actually about. Make it count, right? In order for this to last, make it count. Now, think back to the 10th and the 11th of February of this year. What were you talking about around or with the career at that time? Because you're likely to be revisiting that and potentially closing down whatever it was talking about. Now, if you want to explore this personally at a greater depth, the Retrograde Survival Kit is up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. This is like the culmination of 6 to 7 years work for me. I'm so chuffed with it. You're going to get planetary prayer, you get energy work, you get lots of insight into the planets, you get lots of insight in the shiny Rafi PDF. Rafi loves a PDF. There's a lot of information in there. There are trips, ticks, tactics, and all of that good stuff on how to sail through a retrograde. And it's not just the Mercury retrograde that you're getting, it's all of the retrogrades, right? So every time from here on in that a planet goes retrograde, you will have a toolkit that is inexhaustible, that does not age. You will have a toolkit. So every time a planet goes retrograde, you will be able to reach into that and do what you need to do. This is to remediate and to benefy the planets, to build a relationship with them so that you're not slave to retrogrades, but you actually become an active participant in them and you start to really extract the goodness and also, more importantly, the knowledge and the wisdom that the retrograde season is trying to really teach you. All right. So if you want to book, if you want to get that, there's a link in the description box below. I can't wait to hear all of the good stuff from it. I'm really excited about this one. If you'd like to book a personal reading with me, you can also do so on the link in the description box below. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi Cancer, welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So for you, this retrograde is taking place in your ninth house, right? Your ninth house of your belief system, your worldview and perspective. The ninth house is your philosophies, your connection. In the old astrology, this was called the house of God. So not only is it your belief systems, but it's also your vision. It's your higher mind, your philosophies and perspective on life. This is foreign travel. It's other places and spaces in the world. It's coaches, mentors, gurus, all of those kinds of things as well. And it can also represent you as those things out in the world. So this might be activating something for you that is calling you to teach, or maybe even for some of you, calling you to go back to school. Now, for you, Mercury rules your third and your 12th houses. So as the third house ruler, Mercury rules Virgo. As your 12th house ruler, Mercury rules Gemini. So this retrograde is probably going to be a little bit kinder to you because it's in a trine to your sign. So whether you're watching for your sun, moon, or ascendant sign, obviously this is going to be in a trine to you, right? And also you have the protection of Jupiter still in your sign, who is the ruler of this Mercury retrograde. So he himself is also retrograde, and that's going to provide you with some added support, and it's likely to help enhance your intuitive collective perception in some way, shape, or form. You've got Jupiter, the planet of vision and prophecy, in your sign, and you've got Mercury in your ninth house. This could give rise to some really great or even potentially visionary ideas that come up for you at the time. Since this is the luckiest house in the chart, and it's also in the space that represents your connection to source, God, divine, whatever you want to call it. The magic is alive and well with and within you at this time. So this is a transit that's going to require a lot more internal energies, and it's asking you to delve very deeply into and to connect with your own, your own connection to source. It's asking you, what do you believe and why? You're going to be rethinking your ideas, rethinking your beliefs, rethinking your, your connection to source, maybe rededicating yourself to a spiritual path or practice in some way. If ever there was a time for you to trust your own messages and intuition, Cancer, this is absolutely that time. Obviously, I'm biased. You're naturally one of the most psychic signs. Obviously, I'm biased because I have a Cancer moon. You all know I'm very proud of that fact. I make no bones about it. Now, you won't get the answers that you seek from the external world unless you are connecting with things or people or places that are further afield. So you're not going to find the answers in your locality. You're going to find them abroad. You're going to find them in the people that live in another country. You're going to find them in people that are from a very different background to you. You're going to find them in coaches, mentors, gurus, or support systems that are in international spaces and places. Since Mercury rules your 12th house of spiritual insight, connection, and release, your third house of mind, communication, conversation, this is absolutely a dialogue with the universe that is inviting you to listen very deeply to your own self-talk. And since this is a retrograde energy, this could be with a sibling, maybe that comes back into your life for help and support. And it could also be that you begin working on old ideas that you had like a long time ago. Remember that Mercury is a money planet as well, and the third house is sales, which means that some of your ideas from the past or even local connections could be very lucrative for you at this time. It will require a little more careful navigation because obviously this is a Mercury retrograde. We can't get around that fact. It's not necessarily a great time to be signing a brand new contract, but it is a great time to be renegotiating deals, rates, or even commissions for yourself. If you have an inkling to return to schools or like school studies, university, higher learning, maybe some kind of wisdom schools, philosophy school, etc., these could really help expand, revise, or even redefine your ideas and your connection to source in some way. I really love this as well for returning to studies that maybe you'd given up on, or maybe you thought, I'm never going to be able to do that now. It could be that actually a way opens up for you, during this Mercury retrograde window, especially when Mercury trines Jupiter. If you're traveling to a place that you've been before, or maybe deciding that you're going to travel more, or it wouldn't be a surprise again because this is the ninth house after all. And if you've had any and all legal matters or proceedings, visas, documentation that needs to be sorted, this could be a really good time to complete those things. But it's also possible that maybe if you've already applied to these, they come back to you and say, look, the name on the form is wrong, or we need to double check this, or something about your numbers isn't correct or whatever. So expect that as part of it. Now, from the 26th of February through to the 20th of March, this transit begins very close to Venus. And Venus rules your 11th house and your fourth house of home, property, real estate. It might also be indicated that bringing a deeper connection with friends and or and even in your living situation in general could be really highlighted. It's possible that there might be more on your mind at this time as well. Like what you do, like what do you define familial relationships by, and how do you connect to your people or your tribe or otherwise? This could be really coming up right now. And then on the 28th of February, Mercury is going to conjunct Venus. So if you have grandparents or an older woman that kind of imparts words of love or wisdom that are deeply aligned or, universally inspired in some way, one of them could really come forward and say something to you that like really hits you very profoundly. Again, and even if this woman is not necessarily usually those things, like, so I'll give you an example. You know, sometimes like when you're talking to someone and like, you know, maybe this person's really happy-go-lucky or whatever, but like then they kind of go off in the distance for a moment. They say some really profound shit, and you're like, okay, what the fuck just happened there, right? And then they just go back to normal. Like, it might be that, right? So let's say this is an older woman in your family that you're like, oh, you know, she's not particularly deep or she's not particularly wise or whatever. Well, this is a retrograde, so all bets are off, right? She could turn around and say something to you that squarely hits you in the chest, and it's just what you need to hear at just the right moment in time. Again, this has a monetary energy to it as well. That's possible. It's likely to be good news about the price of your home going up, or if you're looking for a home, this could be good news about connecting with a friend or somebody as well. Could come through for you and say, like, you know, you were looking for an apartment. I found this place. It's absolutely like incredible. It's, you know, or maybe it's the last one in the building, or maybe even like it's close to them. Maybe they say to you, like, oh my God, the house next door has just come up for sale. Or, you know what I mean? Like it could just be something around those. Venus is exalted in Pisces. She does good work. So women could be very helpful or useful for you in this regard in some way now. On the 4th of March, we have Mercury opposing the moon. It's a fleeting transit, right? But you are the moon and you are just off the back of an, excuse me, you are just off the back of an eclipse at this point. So I think this is definitely a day worth paying attention to. While it is fleeting, it's going to hit you harder because you are just off the back of this eclipse. And, you know, obviously, because this is taking place in your third house, there could be like a locality sort of energy to it. The moon will be in Virgo, just, you know, as I've said, off the back of this eclipse. It could also be that there's something to do with education that causes a bit of a niggle. Maybe you take a class and you don't get the recording. Maybe you apply for something and, you know, there's a hiccup with it, right? That's possible. It could also be because there's something that you're emotionally invested in, and it's like because your voice is being considered in some way, maybe that you feel as like you're being silenced or you're not being heard or you're being, you know, your voice is being eclipsed in some way. On the 5th of March, I will say, yeah, as well, like with that 4th of March, watch what you're saying at this time, just because you don't want anything to be misconstrued. It's a Mercury retrograde after all. On the 5th of March, Mercury retrograde is going to begin to trine the Jupiter retrograde in your sign. This is nice. This is the part of the transit that I'm really liking, and I like the fact that this happens as a part of this transit because it means that this one's going to be nothing like the 2019 one. This is the part of the transit that I think is really nice. It's going to trine that Jupiter. It's a wonderful protective vibe across the first and the ninth houses. So it's like wherever the challenge in like to your words were on the fourth, this really sees that being sort of dissolved or removed in some way, washed away, let's say, right? Because this is happening in water houses after water signs after all. Now, since Jupiter for you rules both the sixth and the ninth houses, it's like you've got some kind of inspiration around work, routines, habits that come up. And I like this for partnering up with somebody on a learning journey, or maybe even agreeing to study with someone at this time and gain wisdom and knowledge that are going to help you evolve in some way. If you plan to work with somebody overseas or just overseas in general, maybe you plan to travel to study something, this could be a really good time to examine the details, right? Not to set them into motion, but to start doing your research. It's not because it's still a Mercury retrograde, unless you were born with a Mercury retrograde, in which case it's a different story for you. On the 7th of March, Mercury goes Cazimi. This is Mercury coming into the heart of the sun where it's being sort of rejuvenated in some way. And usually, brilliant, fantastic ideas occur. And since this is, you know, the sun is the ruler of your second house of money, finances, and resources, it's also the ruler of your diet and your possessions. So this could be a good time for you to start looking at those things. And I also feel like you could get really good ideas to make money at this time, and it comes in at just the right moment. It's said that, Einstein said that necessity was the mother of all invention. And this could be that. It's like you're thinking about this and you have this incredible insight or download in some regard, and you're like, ah, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this, and this is how I'm going to make money from now on. On the 8th of March, we've got the this beautiful Grand Water Trine. It is the moon in Scorpio. It is going to be really fleeting, so you know we do have to consider that. You do nothing with it, you get nothing from it. You do nothing with it, you lose nothing. All right. This one is fleeting. Luna is in Scorpio, but I still really like this. I love a Grand Water Trine because things just flow so much better. And for you, this is happening across the first, the fifth, and the ninth houses. This is self-expansion and self-growth in some way. It's a great time for you to go after something that you want or need, especially if it requires emotional stability or input in some way. Remember, it is still a retrograde and it's, you know, it is a one and done. It's worth using right now because you probably won't get another one like this, as both planets that Luna is connecting to are retrograde. So this could bring something back into your world. But the key here is optimism, right? You've got to lean into the luck. On the 11th of March, Jupiter's going to go direct. We love this. And the reason we love this because that Mercury is going to be even better supported, right? He's already well supported, but he's even going to be even more so now. Excuse me. Jupiter going direct in the first house affords you some bonus points. This is where whatever opportunities in work or study or with foreign places or even legal matters and proceedings, they now really move ahead much better. Remember, it's going to take time for Jupiter to get up to speed. If you've been working on or with visas or legal matters, this could be where they really start to resolve or unfold quite nicely in some regard. Um, and yes, I'm aware that Mercury is still retrograde at this point. On the 14th and the 15th of Mercury, on the 14th and 15th of March, Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with Mars. This could be where there are some harsh words could come up, whether from or towards you. This could be around your career. It could also be around your children if you've got them. Maybe something that you express personally comes under fire or feels like a little bit more, you know, remember Jupiter's in your sign protecting you and he's direct now. I do feel that this is, you know, something of a hill that you kind of say, like, you can fight me on this, but I will go down on this one, right? Like, if we're fighting on this, it's you and me, right? Like, and I have to say, if you're cross-watching for a Cancer, if it's something that they truly feel or are emotionally invested in, family, friends, or something that they genuinely love, leave it the fuck alone. All right. I'm just going to tell you straight up. People talk about Cancer like, oh, they're soft crybabies, and you know, they're just like these namby-pamby soft babies that just want to feed everyone and cry about everything. That's a part of it. I am biased. Obviously, I've got Cancer Moon, right? So, but I can tell you when they are fully emotionally in their power and fully invested, if the Cancer person is telling you, I will go down on this hill, it's you and me, I will fight for this, back up. Just leave it because I'm telling you, you ain't coming out of that one in. Even if you think you might win, I'm telling you, you're not coming out of it unscathed, right? Like I've said this before with the water signs, they will find that chink in your armor. They will find that emotional weak point that you have. And once they've found it, you're fucked, right? I'm straight up. You guys know me. I tell you how it is, okay? For 90% of the time, Cancer is loving, warm, nurturing, kind, protective, all of that stuff. That other 10%, don't play with it. All right. Now, all of that aside, as the transit completes from the 16th to the 20th, before Mercury stations to go direct on the 21st, on the day of the spring equinox, right? What are the odds? We will have Mercury sat on the North Node for an unusually long time. As this transit completes, it's going to be sat on that North Node, which means fated communications and conversations are very likely at this point. It would be a really good time for you to think back to the 10th and between the 10th and the 12th of February. What were the conversations that you were having? what were the important topics of discussions around all of these ninth house things that I've mentioned coming up. Especially like, around legal matters, they could be amplified or likely bigger than you expect. Do be conscious around what and who you align with at this time, especially in a contractual matter, because you're tapping into that North Node energy, right? Now, if you would like to explore this even more personally on a one-to-one, you can do so on the link in the description box below. Or if you want to get ahead of this transit and you want to use this retrograde and all of the retrogrades that come up for the rest of your life in a much more powerful and participatory sort of guise, let's say, the retrograde survival kit is up and out there. I am so proud of this thing. It's been the culmination of 6 or 7 years work. It's good, y'all. Right, even if I do say so myself. So basically, as part of this, you're going to get a planetary prayer so that you can remediate and benefit and bonify the planet. You're going to get energy work. You're going to get planetary insights from yours truly, and so much more. There are trips, ticks, hints, hacks, all of that good stuff. And there's a fair decent amount of information in there that's going to show you not only how the planet is and what its nature is, but it gives you so much, right? And you can use this for every single, not just Mercury retrogrades, but every single planetary retrograde that comes up from now until whenever you want to do this kind of work. It's inexhaustible and it's an entire toolkit. There's a link in the description box below. Go and check it out. I'm super, super chuffed with this one, and I really hope that you love it as much as I have creating it. And this is stuff that I use for myself, and it's stuff that I've been building for the last 6 or 7 years. All right, so check it out, enjoy. I truly hope that you love it as much as I do. With that said, let me know in the comments, how does this Mercury retrograde play out for you? Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi Leo, my ascendant brothers and sisters, welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So for you, this retrograde is taking place in your eighth house of other people's money, joint finances and resources. The eighth house is the house of death, taxes, debts, the taboo, the things that you don't talk about. It's an occult house that speaks to and directly to things like tarot, astrology, numerology, anything that you consider shadow work or energy work. These are all very eighth house things. Now, that being said, the eighth house is also wounds, crises, and trauma. And the eighth house is also what we call the true space in the chart that represents that big word that a lot of people mention with this house, transformation. Mercury in your chart rules both your second house of money, finances, and resources because it rules Virgo. It also rules your 11th house of higher vision, higher aspirations, and inspiration for your future, the trajectory of your life out there in the distant future. The 11th house is the gains from your career or your profession. The 11th house is also friends, benefactors, helpful people, and group associations. So Mercury really is a money planet in your chart, and it's in a sign that has a lot to do with mutual, joint, and also big, chunky money resources as well. Now, for a Mercury retrograde in the eighth house, it can be deep. It can see you, really thinking very serious about plumbing the depths of your psyche, maybe even going through some sort of therapeutic process is very highly favored at this time as well. It could see you like, and if you do this, it will allow you to go deeper than you've ever gone before. If you have any issues or even blocks, this is a time where diving really deep into those will allow you to uncover what the blocks actually are, or rather, what the root of those things are. So, things around money, things around sex and intimacy. There's powerful work to be done here with this retrograde. Since the eighth house is anything and everything mystical and magical, the occult could be very much to the forefront in your mind. Any form of spell work that you do is going to be really heightened at this time. Any delving into and using or working with people who practice astrology, tarot, numerology, it's a great time. This would be a great time to go and see a medium, right? Somebody who connects you with loved ones long since passed. Readings that you get could really land at this time, but it's Mercury retrograde in the eighth house. So when you have the reading at the time, it might not really make sense. But then later, when Mercury goes direct, you might see like and be like, oh my gosh, like whoa, like that's actually scary, intuitive, or on point. Now, your own intuition, your personal power are going to be rising at this time, but again, it's going inward. It's trusting and listening to the messages that come from within at this time. And since Mercury rules your second house of money, finances, resources, and it's in a house that represents mutual resources and funds, it's possible that you could be focusing on a lot on finances right now, especially throughout this whole period, right? Since Mercury is obviously rules money and transactions as well. These could increase, absolutely, but watch out for things like refunds and things that could show up. Since Mercury also rules that 11th house for you, which is the gains that you get from business or work. Shut that down because it's going to drive me mad. Right, it's possible that the financial matters could be on the rise. Sorry, got to sort the lips out. Not about them dry, ashy lips, boy. Now, lastly, consider that the 11th house is also helpful people and benefactors and also friends. It's also your 11th house also has a lot to do with confidence, inspiration, and freedom. So you might find that conversations that instill you with these things that come from people who really foster that within you. So you could be having some really deep conversations, 8th house, Mercury retrograde in the 8th. Mercury is ruler of the 11th. You could be having some really deep conversations with people that instill a sense of confidence or inspiration or inspire you to find out what, the next level of freedom actually looks like for you. Since the 11th house is also about the future and Mercury's in the 8th, I would not be surprised to find out that a lot of you are building something behind the scenes, but very much something to do with your future, since the 8th house is where Mercury is located and it's a house of secrets. So there's something that you're doing at the moment that you're working on in the background. And I kind of feel like, and I know this is true for me, there's a lot of things actually that I'm working on in the background. Be careful because it's a Mercury retrograde, so somehow this could sort of slip out. Um, you know, make sure you're protecting your passwords and all of that good stuff. So as this transit begins, Venus will be very close to Mercury, right? Like they're basically side by side. They're within orb of what we would call a conjunction, so it's like less than 3 degrees. Since Venus is very close to this Mercury retrograde as the transit begins, it stands to reason that there's going to be good news around career matters and also money. And since Venus also rules your third house of commercial activities and sales, it's possible, because it's a Mercury retrograde, that old clients could return or bargains are struck with people that you work with or have worked with in the past. These could be coming back around, or they could be, coming up for discussion. Now, on the 26th of February, Venus and Mercury are going to come into a conjunction. The two money planets coming into a conjunction where Venus is exalted in Pisces and Mercury is kind of in its full. So I don't think these are going to cancel each other out. I actually think they amplify and maybe potentially skew the results in some word, right? So speak plainly, examine everything with and around deals, contracts, commercial activities through, and obviously look for bargains, backroom deals. And for you personally, it suggests that the money that you need and maybe the support from helpful people is absolutely there, just not in the way that you expect, or maybe out on the public stage. So whatever it is, this is very much sort of backroom deals, things that are happening in the liminal spaces, etc. On the 4th of March, this one is fleeting, but I'm mentioning it because we are just off the back of an eclipse in that second house. So the moon will be moving through the sign of Virgo. The moon and Mercury are going to oppose each other. So it's, as I say, it's fleeting, but I'm paying attention to it because we're just off the back of that eclipse. Your ruler, the sun, also being in your 8th house, will heighten this. And since the moon rules your 12th house, it's happening in your 8th house and your second houses. Be careful with the impulse spending and buying at this time because it can be very high. Watch out for behavioral patterns around food, around sweet things, especially. Rafi got that sweet tooth, boy, so I'm going to have to really watch out for this one because that could be derailing my progress, Annie. especially if you're prone to these things already. Since it's Luna in Virgo in the second house, she's still very strong, but be aware that they're like the emotional part of things at this time could be really, really tough. The fact that she'll move through a sextile to Jupiter alleviates some of the challenge, but it's still present. On the 5th of March, Mercury is going to begin to trine Jupiter. I love this. I think this is the best part about this transit. Mercury trine Jupiter in your 12th house. So this is a tremendous inner and emotional energy, and the dialogue that's coming through your psychic and spiritual centers is going to be immense at this time. Listen deeply to your dreams, to your visions, and even your daydreams, like where you go off into a reverie. That's Mercury stuff, but Mercury's in Pisces retrograde in the 8th house, an occult house. It's trying to Jupiter, a spiritual visionary planet in your 12th house, the psychic house. Your dreams, your visions, and your daydreams at this time could be especially potent, and they could be very informative. So listen to them, especially when it comes to things like, repeating or occurring themes, phrases that people that you like. You hear something, and then you go to the shop, and then somebody says it again, and then you turn on the TV, and somebody says it again, and then you talk to a friend or a sibling, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and you're like, "Okay, now this is starting to get weird, right?" Like, pay attention to those kinds of synchronicities. I do love that Jupiter rules your 8th house because it provides protection, although spiritual protection, not necessarily overt or external. Since Jupiter rules your 5th house of luck and creativity and your 8th house of speculative endeavors, do play the lottery at this time. Anything that requires a little bit of a chance, right? Play. Why not? What have you got to lose? Don't bet the house, the kids, and the dog on the roulette, please. But like, yeah, keep it all in perspective, right? I really love this, to use this for deep work, for deep research, shadow work, or even spell work. If you haven't seen it, I created a tarot for spell work workshop. There's a link for that in the description box below. Trust me, I threw everyone into that as well, like everything into that one as well, and I think you will absolutely love it. So if that's for you and you think, you know what, I want to use this, and it's literally, I kid you not, it's just turned 11/11 on the 21st of February as I'm recording this, so that's really interesting. Um, so yeah, if you want to get that, there's a link in the description box below. Now, on the 7th of March, Mercury will go Cazimi. This is usually like a brilliant idea. It can be fleeting, and since you are the sun and this is happening in your 8th house, it could be an important conversation around your identity or your outlook in some way, maybe even a goal or a desire of the heart. It could also be something that you feel really drawn to work on towards for the future, that's like really inspired, but it will require a lot of deep thought, a lot of deep focus, probably more research than you've ever done before. It could also be a conversation that you don't see as much at the time, but then in hindsight, you're like, oh my gosh, like that was really, really, like it was a really insightful or very deep conversation. Might also be a topic of discussion that you thought was on off the table, but it comes back up. On the 8th of the month of March, we've got the moon in Scorpio, obviously Mercury in Pisces, retrograde. We've got Jupiter in Cancer, also retrograde. This is a grand water trine. I love a grand water trine. And you have the water signs in the water houses. So this is happening across the 4th, the 8th, and the 12th. It's deeply and internally healing, supportive, very intuitive. It's fleeting because it's the moon. Usually we don't include the moon because she moves so quickly, but this one, even with the, Luna in her fall in Scorpio, I think this one is worth mentioning. It could be a help and support that comes from the family, good news around a property matter, maybe something that's deeply emotionally restorative via a conversation with somebody that you love really deeply. I don't see this as a cure-all, but I really do see it as something going way better than expected. It could be around an inheritance matter or some kind of financial benefit, blessing, or support. It's Luna in Scorpio, right? But it does happen to be in all of the I say the right houses, the spaces that matter, certainly for something like this, all right? On the 11th of March, we've got Jupiter going direct in your 12th house. This is going to be welcome because not only is he bringing his steady, he's now going to start that steady process towards stepping into your sign in July, on the 1st of July of this year, my dear Leo ascendant people. That's going to be a game changer for you, right? But here and now, this is whatever opportunities have come up for you that you felt like you just were just out of your reach or weren't quite there, or it's like you couldn't quite put your finger on it. Now they actually become possible for you. And this is a period where, this could be around self-expression, around your dating life. It could even be reconnections in the sexual dynamics in some regard. Could be revisited in some way. If you have children and you've been in a bit of a funk with them, this could go a long way to healing that as well. Remember, it is just station direct now, so it's going to take time to get up to speed. On the 14th and the 15th of March, Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with Mars. It's a day or two, I would say 2 to 4 days of frustration, potentially harsh words when it comes to finances, money, and expenses around the home. Maybe even news that is somewhat challenging around home, family, potentially even some kind of legal matter as well, since Mars rules your fourth house and your ninth house. I do, however, feel like some of you could realize that in order to get to where you would like to be, you're going to need to go back to school in some way, and maybe even thinking about what that's going to look like for you, in the future. I, I gotta say, like, I've got a lot of trauma around higher education, and I've always said, like, never again, never ever again will I put myself in that situation. Um, but there's a part of me that feels like, especially, we've now got Saturn and Neptune in that ninth house as well. And it kind of feels like if you're like me and you've got a lot of stuff attached to, long term or higher education, etc., and things that need to be healed, this could signify that, like it's possible. I do wonder what will come up around the conversations with this, even though that Mercury's retrograde in the eighth house. Mars rules the ninth, right? So, and it's coming into a conjunction with that Mercury in the eighth house of wounds, crises, trauma. So this might be a time where maybe you talk it out, maybe you sort of explore it in a therapeutic process in some regard, and you see it differently. My feeling about this is you're going to realize, like, okay, I need to up my game or my skills in this area if I'm going to do A, B, and C. From the 16th to the 20th, Mercury will be sat directly on well, it will be passing over the North Node, and then obviously on the 21st, it stations to go direct. As this transit completes, we find Mercury sat directly on the North Node. Fated and destined communications and conversations are coming in. Since Mercury is the second and 11th house ruler, there's likely to be a lot of conversations around money, finances, and resources. Look back to the 10th and the 11th of February to ask yourself what was going on around money at that time, because you're likely to be talking about it or revisiting it again. You might be doing this with a sibling because it's in the eighth house. There's possibly an inheritance sort of message or something around these types of things that might be coming up. I do feel that getting to the point of completion that you've been working on, like on something behind the scenes, this can be very exciting for you, because it's like, what, as this transit completes, I'm ready for this thing to be out there in the world. So it's kind of really exciting, actually. In one way, like, even if it is kind of a lot or there's some big conversations, I really do feel this is going to bring some great stuff in. Excuse me. So, if you would like to explore this personally, you can get a reading with me on the link in the description box below. But to get ahead of this transit, right, you can take advantage. The retrograde survival kit is now up and out there. It's live for your purchasing pleasure. You can get that on the link in the description box below. And it's literally something that is going to serve you for the rest of your life. Whatever retrograde comes up, not just this Mercury retrograde, but whatever retrograde comes up for you, This is it's inexhaustible. This is the culmination of like 6 or 7 years worth of work for me. You're going to get a planetary prayer. You've got the like the bulky PDF that's in there as well, that's going to help you explore each planet in depth, right? You're going to find out how long is the retrograde, how does it last, all of that kind of stuff. You're going to get tips, tricks, hints, and hacks. And on top of that, you get energy work to help you remediate the retrograde energies that are flowing out. Now, these are techniques that I use myself. There's a link in the description box below. Make sure you check that out. And as I say, this doesn't age. It's inexhaustible. This is not a one and done. Once you have this, every time a planet goes retrograde, Venus later on this year, right? Every time Mercury goes retrograde, Jupiter goes retrograde, you will have a toolbox, a toolkit for you to delve into to use. And obviously, as it's the launch phase, you will be getting it at a discounted price. So check that out. With that said, let me know how this retrograde treats you. I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi Virgo, welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So this Mercury retrograde for you is happening in your seventh house of romance, partnership, connection, collaboration, but these are also relationships of a personal, professional, or platonic nature as well. Anywhere that you have a strong one-to-one connection or bond with somebody, you are going to find the seventh house being activated. Now, that being said, Mercury is you. You are Mercury. Mercury for you in your chart rules your first house, but it also rules your 10th house as well. So your first house is you, your identity, how you move through the world, your personality. Then your 10th house is your public social sector. It's your career. It's your career sort of how you present to the outside world, the legacy that you're leaving behind over the course of this lifetime. And more importantly, it's relationships and interactions with authority. The 10th house is a very public space in the chart. So this Mercury retrograde happening in your relationship sector may mean that some of your partnerships, relationships, or connections or collaborations are taking place in a very public way. Now, that being said, this is you, right? Mercury is you. Mercury is your chart ruler. So it's taking place in your seventh house of relationships, connections, partnerships of all kinds. And anyone whom you have deep personal ties to is likely to be going through this with you in some regard. It means that you're going to be rethinking, redefining, and maybe even renegotiating some of the contracts in your life. This could also be because it's very unlikely that this is a deal breaker, but it does suggest that for a select few of you, that if you know that you're not in the right connection or relationship, you might start rethinking that now. And the way that I think this will come about is you end up having really deep conversations with your significant other to say, how do we fix this? How do we move forward? How do we, make this better so that both of us can be not only happier, but more engaged here? Whether you're married, partnered, or, engaged at this time, you could be thinking about how to both deepen and refresh your connection in some way, and that's a good place to be because not only are you then going to give it the most thought and time and energy, but more importantly, it shows that you're still invested. As a ruler of your career sector, you could be rethinking who you work with, rethinking your work relationships and partnerships, and maybe even changing some of the wording in paperwork around such things, like whether that's contracts or commitments. If you've got contracts or partnerships or even employees and stuff like that, you could be really looking at these things and changing your wording, changing how you're going to move forward with these things. I do think that this is likely to be a great time for contract negotiation or renegotiation. It is a retrograde after all, so this could be great for that. Now, as the transit begins on the 26th of March and it finishes on the 20th, on the 26th of February and finishes on the 20th of March, it starts this though really close to Venus. Now, Venus for you in your chart is the ruler of your second house and your ninth house. And she's going to be close to the beginning of her of your retrograde, right? So it could be that finances are a topic at this time, especially in or with relationships, since Mercury rules money and also the ninth house is involved. This could be a legal matter to attend to around money, finances, and resources. redefining contracts, redefining and renegotiating terms of contracts as well. I do wonder as well if some of you are going to be going back to the table on some of these things to say, like, now that, and maybe even seeking some kind of legal advice. I wouldn't be surprised about that just because Venus is involved. Excuse me. Now, on the 28th of February, Mercury and Venus are going to come into a conjunction. This invites and inspires you to get serious about these things, and it might even see you get some kind of solid agreement, you know, maybe in place, but there's still negotiations to be had. I feel like whatever this is, though, it won't be over that quickly, especially because this is happening just at the start of the retrograde. So it might be that there is some back and forth. And so if there's delays on these kinds of things, don't worry too much about it. It just means that it is going to require some sort of careful navigation. Now, another thing is, because Jupiter is in his exaltation in the sign of Cancer and is the ruler of this Mercury while he's in the sign of Pisces, there is an element of protection in there. Okay, now on the 4th of the month, Mercury is going to oppose the Moon. I usually wouldn't mention this because it's quite a fleeting transit, but at this time we are just off the back of that eclipse that took place in your sign. So this is one to really think about because, and luckily, this is the last eclipse in your sign, you'll be glad to know, for the next 9 or 10 years. So you're done, baby. All right, like, but you are probably feeling quite optimistic about something and maybe even emotional at what's unfolding at this moment in time, especially as it unfolds across your first and seventh houses. There's something deeply personal about this. I get the feeling for a lot of you that something that you never thought was possible for you now happens, and it's very much either out of context or out of the blue. I feel like this would be like a really emotional experience for a lot of you. So it may also be that maybe you realize that your plans are shifting because of whatever's coming in. So I'll give you an example. I wonder, right? This is just one example, but imagine now you've always been told like you'll never be able to conceive. This happens, right? The eclipse happens in your sign, and then you have, maybe as a result of this or around the time of, this moon opposing Mercury, you get some results back, and the doctor says to you, like, I don't really know how to tell you this, but did you know that you're pregnant? And you're like, well, that's not possible because I've been told I can't have children. And it's like all of a sudden, everything that you thought that you knew is very, very different. And this doesn't necessarily mean that this is making it happen, but it's like something that comes to light that's deeply emotional for you. Now, that's just one example of how this can play out, but it is a strong feeling that it's like something that you thought was, like, no, that's not on the cards for me. That's not possible. And then boom, all of a sudden it happens and you're like, well, fuck me. Like what are the odds? On the 5th of March, we've got Mercury retrograde beginning to trine Jupiter in his retrograde. I love this part of this transit because this is one like the one that we had in 2019, the Pisces retrograde in the sign of the Pisces Mercury retrograde of 2019, like rocked my shit. I'm not even going to tell you. Like, right, not here for it. So I was like, oh gosh, here we go, another one of these. But this, we didn't have this last time, right? This is going to be lovely. This is going to be really, really nice. So this is happening across your seventh and 11th houses. All right. Now, new partnerships or old partnerships and connections and collaborations are likely to come back in. It means that a lot of you have like a deep chance to repair old friendships or even just reconnect in ways that feel really good. I also think that you might have a friend come to you with an idea that feeds into some kind of goal that you have going on. And I do think that this, like the sense of inspiration and freedom from a burden that is going to be like, is going to feel really solid. It's like, it might come through a partner if you're married or connected to somebody romantically, but it could just as easily come, from an external perspective, like a friend. It's like whatever or whoever you need to just really feel like things are moving in a way that are positive, like they bring something to you and say, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a brilliant idea. And actually, it feeds directly into this thing that I've been working on. On the 7th of March, we've got Mercury going Cazimi, so this is your ruling planet. it's usually like a great idea or a really important conversation of some sort. And since the sun for you rules the 12th house, it's quite possible that a download or even a dream or the return of somebody from your past could come through. And I do like this for an illumination of something from a far away or potentially even an international sort of feel becomes really beneficent for you. Could also be a conversation that happens behind closed doors or away from prying ears that helps you get clear on something from or about the past. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of you, like maybe you get like a piece of secret or insider information at this time. Whatever it is, it's for your ears only. So do keep it under wraps. I know my Virgos, you guys are really good at keeping secrets. On the 8th of March, I'm just laughing because I ain't telling you. Nuh-uh, you ain't getting it out of me. I'm a good keeper. I am a very good secret keeper. So anyway, on the 8th of March, you've got the moon in Scorpio. You've got the obviously Mercury retrograde in Pisces in your seventh, and then you'll have Jupiter retrograde in your oh my gosh, my brain's just gone completely blank. 11th, right? So it's a grand water trine across the third, seventh, and 11th houses. This is a grand water trine in the social connective spheres of your life. It's very exciting. It's fleeting, and it is the moon in Scorpio, but I do love a grand water trine. It's an activation of all of the connections that you have with other people, your local neighborhood, your personal and intimate connections, as well as your social, platonic, and group associations. It's a time where your emotional energy is absolutely flowing well. And what comes to mind is it takes a village to raise a child. You might not have children or babies, but the support that you need to raise one is there. Meaning, like if you have an idea or a business or a service or something like that, the connection, whatever it is, doesn't necessarily matter. It's like that the support on a social level that you need to do this thing is there. The friendship and connection energy is real at this time. And, if you need to mend any of those kinds of relationships, this could be a really good time to do it. Again, it's fleeting, it's just a day, it's lunar after all, first of all. And second, you do nothing with it, you get nothing from it. You do nothing with it, you lose nothing. All right. On the 11th of March, you've got Jupiter going direct. I do love this. It's going direct in your 11th house, which means that friendship, group ties, group associations, anything that's been wonky in those areas is coming back online or is improving in some way. And I really like that you're going in a new direction. And since Jupiter for you rules both the fourth house and the seventh house, familial support and connection might be running smoother than it has in a while. I do like the trine that I mentioned earlier feeding into this. It's like whatever the blessings are from friends, maybe they help you around a property matter or even find you a property that feels like home in some regard. On the 14th and the 15th of March, Mercury, your ruler, comes into a conjunction with Mars in your seventh house. Mars for you rules the third house and the eighth house. And I do think this could be a time where information comes to light and causes a stir. This could be a secret of some sort that comes up and out. And it could see you like something that really gets your back up. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I always say like the different groups of signs, like they will read you to filth, but in different ways, right? Everybody knows how to read someone to filth. But the earth signs, like the earth signs do it in a really funny way because it's like straight up just deal with the facts. Like it's always really cut and dry. Like there's no emotional sort of, entanglement to it. It's not like they get personal about like the fact that you're fat or your hair is like, do you know what I mean? Like that's more of a fire sign kind of thing. I mean, truth be told, fire signs will just fight you. All right, but the earth signs will like, I'm laughing because they just deal with the facts. So they'll kind of just be like buff, 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 right? And it's like being hit with a brick that is not subtle at all. And I'm laughing because it's like I feel like this could be like 2 to 4 days of your back really getting up about something. And it could be a matter concerning a sibling or even an issue with neighbors that comes up or maybe causes some kind of frustration. It will be fleeting, so don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it will still need to be addressed in some way. Deal with it swiftly. And I will say at this time, especially, please protect your IP at all costs. Okay. Now, as the transit begins to complete between the 16th and the 20th of March, we will have Mercury in a conjunction to the North Node. So as this transit completes, it's going to be sat on the North Node. I want you to think back to the 10th and the 11th of February, see what's wrapping up and what's completing at this time, because that's likely to be the focus of whatever's sort of tying itself up at the moment, especially around your identity or needing to scale something back at this time because your focus is elsewhere. Since Mercury also rules your 10th house, yes, your career, but maybe your social status, partnered, single, married, homeowner, mother, father, husband, wife. These are all statuses of some sort. So I can't put my finger on it, but I do feel that it will be possible that you're ready to share something much more publicly at this time. But it's like when it comes up, it will be so deeply emotional for you because I just have this sneaking suspicion that for a lot of you, whatever this thing is that comes up throughout this retrograde, it's something that you genuinely did not think was possible for you. And now, boom, all of a sudden it's like, ta-da, it's here. Now, if you want to explore this personally with me, you can get that on the link. There's a link in the description box below for you to book your personal Astro Tarot session with me. On top of that, not the Mercury, the retrograde survival kit is up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. There's a link in the description box below. You're going to get energy work. You're going to get deep insights. You're going to get tricks, tips, hacks. You're going to get so many insights. You're going to get the planetary prayer. This is about becoming an active participant in these retrogrades rather than just ducking and cover and waiting for them to happen. This toolbox that I've created for you is inexhaustible. You will be able to use this not just for Mercury retrograde. Oh, no, 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 no. This is radiant reality. You will be able to use this for all the retrogrades. Every time a planet goes retrograde, you will have a toolbox, a toolkit to reach into so that you can learn so much more about yourself when you work with these transits rather than just wait for them to be over. This is about becoming the master of your own fate, taking your life in your own hands and saying, you know what, I'm going to work with this energy. And what you learn through these, like through delving into these retrograde energies, what you learn about yourself is absolutely incredible. So I will say, there's a link in the description box below. This is the culmination of like 6 and 7 years work for me. I started this process back in 2019, and finally with everything else that I've now added to it, this is what it needed to be. So I'm bringing this, I'm releasing it, I'm returning it to the world, but in a very, very different light. So I'm really excited. You can check that out on the link in the description box below. Let me know how this retrograde plays out for you. With that said, take care and I'll see you soon. Hi Libra, welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So for you guys, Mercury is going retrograde in your sixth house of your day-to-day habits, work patterns, and routines. Your sixth house is also your physical health and vitality, and your sixth house also rules and represents anything that we consider a burden or a challenge. And sometimes it also represents what you need to do in order to maintain the lifestyle that you have. Now, Mercury in your chart obviously rules your ninth house and it also rules your 12th house. So as your ninth house ruler, it rules Gemini. And as your 12th house ruler, it rules Virgo. So there's likely to be a big focus on your health at this time, right? Definitely health, work, related habits, patterns, routines are found here as well. Since this is also the place of burdens and challenges, it's worth considering that there's likely to be a big focus on any and all potentially legal matters and proceedings, because obviously Mercury rules that ninth house for you as well. I will say, because this is Mercury in retro, like in Pisces, and it is retrograde, be mindful that there could also be a few plots on, in the background, so to speak. So you're going to want to make sure that you're really getting the full story on anything that you're and with anyone that you're interacting with at this time. it's a good time for you to rely on your intuition rather than the facts as they are given to you. So, Mercury also ruling that 12th house, it's possible that some remediation can and will be found by doing some kind of daily spiritual practice, something that you do in earnest, that you insert into your daily experience, right? Now, if you have or had any mental or physical health issues, this is a really good time to dig into them so that you can get a deeper insight and maybe even get to the bottom of whatever is going on here. I will say also it's a really good time for getting second opinions on things as well. It's also possible that there could be some time spent in hospital situations. My feeling around this is it's a really good time for you to withdraw from the world and do some very deep, very deep soul searching and self-nurturing and looking like, nurturing and nourishing yourself, especially your physical health and vitality. Now, as this transit starts, Mercury is very close to your ruling planet. Venus is retro. Venus is going to be exalted in the sign of Pisces. She's very close to the start of this Mercury retrograde. So I actually think that could be that could be quite beneficial for you. Now, your ruler, obviously, as ruler of your first house and also as ruler of your eighth house as well. So I had to think about that one. This affords you plenty of protection and it also provides a bit of a buffer. She rules you and your eighth house, so it's possible that there could be considerations around financial matters, considerations at this time around joint finances and resources as well, and maybe the burdens and challenges that sort of those present in some way. Listen to your intuition and rely on your practices at this time. I cannot stress that enough. Now, on the 28th of the month, Mercury is going to conjunct Venus, right? So we start the transit on the 26th, goes all the way through to the 20th of March. This Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus is happening in that sixth house, which also means there could be a disagreement between ideas or opinions or even diagnoses around health matters, which is why getting a second opinion will absolutely be would be a good thing to do at this time. Obviously, always defer to your medical professional. I don't want you to go in there and say, well, my astrologer said no. What I would like you to do is use your discernment, but more importantly, if you hear something from your healthcare professional that doesn't really make sense or it doesn't feel right, then get a second opinion. And it may be that there are two people that you're working with in or on a health matter that are disagreeing about what the way forward is. And in that regard, because this is happening in your sixth house, listen to your body, listen to your physical being, because it's very wise and it will never steer you wrong. This is a really good time to see like what's being said, to listen deeper for whatever's not being said in front of you as well. Now, on the 4th of March, we've got Mercury coming into an opposition with the moon. I wouldn't usually mention this because lunar moves really quickly, but on this day, we are literally just off the back of the eclipse. So it will be fleeting, but it's worth paying attention to. Now, the moon in your chart rules your 10th house of career, and so a career matter or a work matter might be very much to the fore at this time. Since the retrograde for you is happening in the 6th house, that moon is going to be in your 12th house. So it's going to be shining a light or illuminating something that maybe is causing some kind of emotional strain. It might also be revealing to you something that you haven't been aware of up until now around the career or the social status in some regard. Now, on the 5th of March, we've got Mercury beginning its trine. So Mercury will be at 18 degrees. If you haven't seen the beginning of the video, I go through all of the transits, what they are. You'll see the dates and the degrees and all of that kind of stuff. So if you want to see all of that stuff, watch the first 25-ish minutes of the video. Now, that being said, Mercury is going to trine Jupiter, who is also retrograde, but Jupiter's in his sign of exaltation. This is really nice because Mercury is currently ruled by Jupiter and Jupiter's in his exaltation. So this is, it's a much nicer energy for us than we've had, certainly than the one we had in 2019. That was a Mercury retrograde not to be named. This is the best part of this transit, in my humble opinion, and it also suggests that there's opportunities with and through work that could be coming back on the table. It also means that there's some kind of healing that takes place that's very much supportive around work, health, and maybe even some kind of legal matter or proceeding, because it is Jupiter after all, especially around a property matter. This is much needed protection, right? That Jupiter is really going to work for you in the 10th house, providing a buffer from whatever the world is trying to sort of impose on you. Now, on the 7th of March, we've got Mercury going Cazimi. This is often a really good idea or a very important piece of information that comes in. It supports you in some way, and it might not be immediately noticeable, and it's probably not going to be immediately actionable because we still have the retrogrades in hand, but it will be helpful. And since the sun in your chart rules the 11th house of good spirit and supportive people, friends, networks, is also likely to be that one of these kinds of people plays a really important role in the future of your ideas and your goals and visions for the future. Now, on the 8th of the month, Luna will be in Scorpio, so she is in her full, but we've got this beautiful Grand Water Trine. Mercury retrograde in Pisces in your 6th house, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer in your, oh my gosh, my brain's just gone completely blank. 10th house, and then your the moon how's it gone blank? We just talked about this, right? And then the moon in your 2nd house in Scorpio. This is, oh, excuse me, this energy shift there. This is a really nice positive energy flow of an emotional nature that feeds directly into the work and the career and profession, but it also enhances your earning potential. Now, this is fleeting. If you use it and you lean into it, you possibly get something nice out of it. If you do nothing with it, you get nothing from it, but you don't lose anything either. It is Luna in the 2nd house, so I will say look at your dietary sensitivity at this time, or if you've got uh, it does suggest to me, like, if there's something that you need to spend money on, especially in like a health or a work capacity, it will be worth the spend. On the 11th of March, we've got Jupiter going direct. This is welcome, a very welcome reprieve for everybody. For all the ups and all the downs and all the things that it's brought, you're now going to see what's truly available to you via the career. And it also sees like whatever changes you're making, whatever changes you've made in the social status arena, now you're going to see them start to really complete or come good. Jupiter in your chart rules your 3rd house of communications, conversations, local neighborhood, and also your 6th house. This gives you a much needed positive energy boost in those kinds of matters and anything to do with both the career, but also in the things that I've mentioned. I think in the work sphere, things are really going to clear up around that. Now, between the 14th and the 15th, we've got Mercury retrograde coming into a conjunction with Mars. These days, and I'm going to say 4 days, right? So between the 13th and the 16th, things could be like the 12th and the 16th, let's say, actually, right? This could be a little bit more terse than usual. Watch out for communications. It's a time that's a little bit more tense. Remember, Mars in your chart rules your 2nd house and your 7th house, right? So there could be, conversations around money, finances, and resources that could come up because this is happening in the 6th house as well. It might also be that money and relationships. It does make me think that there might be like really hot topics at the time, like finances with a partner, money, your money, what you're expected to pay, what you're not expected to pay, and why, and all of that kind of stuff. Now, between the 16th and the 20th, as this transit comes to a close, Mercury is going to be sat directly on the North Node, which means that there's going to be very important conversations and communications happening at this time. Think back to the 10th and the 11th of February. What were you talking about around health, work matters, around your physical health and vitality, but also like your daily grind? What were you really focused on at that time, and what conversations were you having around such matters? These are things to really think about at this moment in time. So, whatever you're talking about around health matters, legal matters as well, and whatever information comes to light at this time, because that's probably going to be a big focus right now. Okay, so as we come into the end of the transit, it's literally just at the spring equinox. If you want to book a personal reading with me, you can do so on the link in the description box below. Or if you want to get ahead of this and every other retrograde energy that comes up over the course of your lifetime, I have created the Retrograde Survival Kit. This is an inexhaustible toolkit that you can use again and again. This is a culmination, return, and a release of something that I've been working on since 2019. I'm really, really happy with it, and it's finally what it needs to be. All these years later, I'm like, oh my gosh, like now it's what it's supposed to be, right? It's literally something that will serve you not just for the Mercury retrograde, for all planetary retrogrades, right? I've gone in on this one. There's so much in there. You're going to get a planetary prayer, you get remediation, you get trips, tips, hacks, and hints. On top of that, you get energy work. Like, there's so much good stuff in this, even if I do say so myself. There's a link for that in the description box below. The Retrograde Survival Kit is up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. Make sure you check that out. The price at the moment is 225, but it will go up to 295. So if you want to grab yourself a bargain, this is the moment to do it. And as I say, you'll be able to use this for every planetary retrograde from here on in. All right, with that said, let me know in the comments how it shapes up. I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi Scorpio, welcome to your Mercury retrograde report. So let's get straight into it. For you, this retrograde is taking place in your fifth house of joy, creativity, pleasure, romance, sex, sensuality. It's all of those things, all of the fun things that make your heart race and your sweat pour and all of that good stuff. It's also a space in the chart that represents your self-expression as well as competition, right, is found in the fifth house as well as luck. Now, for you in your chart, Mercury rules your eighth and 11th houses. So this Mercury retrograde taking place in the fifth of joy, creativity, and all of those things that I mentioned. I don't think that you're so much gonna be rethinking fun so much as trying to figure out the ways that you can bring more of that into your world. It's almost like this could be a time where you're thinking to yourself, the ideas are popping off and it could be fun, exciting, and sexy, especially since Mercury rules that eighth house, which means that there can absolutely be considerations around sex, sensuality, the nature of intimacy for you. These are things that are deeply tied and integrated into who you are already. As it rules your 11th house of friendship, some of you could be venturing beyond the boundary where a friendship turns into something more, or maybe you're having conversations around this to see, like, actually, is this something that we want to explore? If you have children, because the fifth house is children, or even a personal business, this might be a time where you're very much more focused on those things. And since Mercury is the ruler of the 8th and the 11th, they're also about money. So it could be that there's financial considerations around your children or a personal business matter. The fifth house is that of self-expression and chance and luck and competition. So it might be a time where a lot of you are thinking about stepping back into the ring in some way, shape, or form. It's interesting because a similar message came up in the Sagittarius tarot read this month, that they were kind of on the comeback trail in some way. And I feel like this could be the same for a lot of you. Like, maybe there's something you used to compete in, and now you're kind of like, actually, you know what? I want to get back to competition weight, or, I want to get my strength back, or my flexibility, or, my ability to do whatever the thing is. If you've got hobbies, talents, and skills that you used to love using but no longer do, this could be a really great time for you to lean totally, fully into that. On the 26th of, so this transit runs from the 26th of February right the way through to the 20th of March, and then it goes direct on, like, literally on the spring equinox this year. So this transit starts really close to Venus. And for you, Venus is the ruler of your 12th and your 7th houses. So she's close to the action. And it makes me think that you could be reconnecting to old lovers, old partners. If you've got old friends with benefits, you could be reconnecting with them at this time. Some of you might be connecting, maybe in new ways with current partners, reigniting the spark if it's dimmed a little bit. It's also possible that you could be redefining friendships and associations at this time. And it could also be that you start delving into the more esoteric side of creativity and inspiration, where you're starting to channel more, or, psychic art. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen someone do psychic art drawing, fucking incredible, especially if they're a good artist. It's really, really interesting. There seems to be something magical and creative in the air, and it would be really wise for you to let that unfold. Now, on the 26th of February, Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with Venus exact, right? And this is in the fifth house. It might be a really good time to play the lottery. It might be a really good time to place a bet. Don't obviously bet the house and the farm. It could even be that you're thinking about joint connections that can actually help you enhance your earning potential, or maybe even make money in a collective kind of way. Now, on the 4th of the month, we've got Mercury going retro. That Mercury retrograde is going to be opposing the moon. This is interesting for a few reasons. Now, it is usually this, I wouldn't mention this because it's quite a fleeting transit, but we are just off on the 4th. We're literally just off the back of the eclipse. Now, for you, this is going to be happening across your 5th and 11th houses where friendships reside, right? Opposing that 5th, it's possible that a conversation with a friend might reach a bit of a boiling point, or, maybe something around a future goal or desire is trampled by someone that you consider an ally because of something that they say to you. It could be something that's really sensitive to you that somebody doesn't realize, like, oh, okay, well, I'm trampling all over this person's flowers. Since the moon for you rules your ninth house, it could also be a teacher, a mentor, or a guru that kind of makes you think, like, oh, yeah, that's really not cool, right? On the 5th of the month, we've got Mercury coming into, it begins its trine to Jupiter, who is also retrograde in Cancer. Now, this combination I love because Jupiter is currently the ruler of that Mercury in Pisces. So the fact that they're connecting nicely is very helpful for all of us. Jupiter rules your money, it rules your second house, and it also rules your fifth house of speculative endeavors, where this is happening. And the trine between the fifth and the ninth is about as lucky as it gets, right? These are both very lucky houses in the chart, and they foster good energy, good spirit, and goodwill from other people. It's absolutely a time to be thinking about any and all things where it's like a game of chance. But obviously, don't bet the house, the kids, and the wife on the roulette table. You really want to be tapping into an energy of optimism and joy here. Also becomes very applicable when it comes to a personal business on how things can increase your wealth or your prosperity. But I love this for the ideas that you have turning into like really fruitful endeavors. This is really a time for you to let that creativity just flow and reign supreme. Now, on the 7th of March, we've got Mercury going Cazimi. A brilliant idea around a career matter might come to light at this time, especially because the sun in your chart rules the 10th house. So Mercury conjunct the sun, the ruler of the 10th. It's the ruler of your, Mercury is the ruler of your 8th and your 11th. Means that friends can see and support your vision. But since it's Mercury retrograde, you might be going back over things or thinking about what could be added to a project before it completes in order to enhance the results that you're getting. So on the 8th of March, we've got the moon in Scorpio, so in your sign. That's going to trine Mercury retrograde in Pisces in your fifth, and then that's going to all trine Jupiter, who's retrograde in your ninth. Now, this is a grand water trine. It's a fleeting transit. You do nothing with it, you'll get nothing from it. If you do nothing with it, you lose nothing either. This is all of the houses of self, the first, the fifth, and the ninth, coming together in this wonderful, harmonious connection of emotional energy. And I think this could be some level of self-advancement in some way if you put your focus in the right places. Where that is, I think, is going to be revealed at the time, rather than me sort of saying, like, oh, I think it will be here. This is one of those ones where I would just be available for whatever chances and opportunities seem to present themselves, and listen to that emotional energy because it's going to prod you in the direction you need to go. On the 11th of March, Jupiter turns direct in that ninth house for you. in his direct motion, and it's welcome in the ninth house of good spirit and luck and foreign travel and how your higher mind and perspective. This is a house that Jupiter understands, and he's in his exaltation. This is where all the goodness around money, opportunity, and luck can really finally start moving fully once more. It will take time to unfold. Remember, like, nothing happens overnight. And when it's a planet stationing to go forward, obviously it's going to take time to pick up speed, but this is a great time to settle and work on any legal matters and proceedings, to get any paperwork wrapped up in a satisfactory kind of way. Remember, Mercury's not done with its retrograde just yet, so he's got time to, but Mercury retrograde is a good time to complete projects. On the 14th and the 15th of the month, so between the 12th and the 16th, let's say, Mars, your ruler, is coming into a conjunction with Mercury retrograde in that fifth house. This is giving you a chance to talk over some of the facts around your identity, your work, your daily experience. It could also be some harsh words with employees or co-workers that get a little bit tense, so watch out for that. If you've got pets, this could potentially be something around a pet or a fur baby that might be needs some support, and even a health matter on a personal level that reaches a bit of a pinnacle. It gives you a chance to reconsider your approach at this moment in time around what really matters to you. Now, as we come from the 16th to the 20th of March, Mercury is going to be sat, is going to station to go direct, but it's also going to be sat directly on the North Node. This is fated communications and conversations around creativity, sexuality, sensuality. This could also be a time where you're reconnecting with old lovers for those of you that are single. It could also be when you look back to the 10th and the 11th, between the 10th and the 12th of February, what conversations were you having in this fifth house area of your life? Because the chances are you're going to be revisiting those in some way, shape, or form. This could also, because Mercury rules that 11th, might be where things light up in a different way. And you kind of say to yourself, like, okay, now I have a really much clearer idea of what I want to create and how that feeds into what I really want to do for the long-term future. So, if you would like to explore this on a personal level, you can click the link below and get a reading with me. Now, that being said, if you haven't got your retrograde survival kit, what are you even doing with your life? If you want to get ahead of this retrograde and you want to use it to your advantage, the retrograde survival kit is up and out there, live and available for purchase. And I love this because it's a culmination of a lot of work for me. Like, I started a project like this years ago and it needed new components. I just didn't know they were what they are now. You're going to get hacks, planetary prayers, tips, tricks, hints, and hacks. You're also going to be able to use this not just for the Mercury retrograde, but for all planetary retrogrades. This is an inexhaustible toolkit that you will have for the rest of your life that you can use. I use these techniques myself, and trust me, what you learn about yourself in retrograde periods is absolutely incredible. And you'll be able to use this for every planetary retrograde that comes up from here until you have the kit, right? Like, it's there. You'll be able to use it as and whenever you like. So make sure you check that out. With that said, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Hit the link below and make sure you let me know in the comments how it shapes up for you. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi, Sagittarius. Welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. It's definitely kicking in. So, the retrograde, that is, not anything else. So, this one for you takes place in the fourth house of home, property, real estate. Since this is happening in your sibling sign of Pisces, so remember, you and Pisces are both Jupiter ruled. So, you might feel this one that much more, but it is really nicely supported, and we're going to see that as we move through this. So, since the fourth house is also a deep house that speaks, like, it's an occult house, it speaks to ancestry, emotional and foundational power and outlooks. There's probably going to be a lot of focus on home, property, real estate, where you live, how you live there. potentially reconfiguration or redefining of relationships with your parents. And the reason I say this is because Mercury in your chart rules both the seventh house of relationship, partnership, connection, one-to-one connections and interactions and contracts. It also rules your 10th house of career, social status, but the 10th house is also authorities, right? So the fourth house, 10th house axis is actually the parental axis. So I would not be surprised to find out that you're having either really deep or really interesting conversations with your parents that help you shift the dynamics around the relationship that you have with them. It could also be that you're putting your past or your history or your childhood in its proper place. Now, that being said, it does suggest that you'll be considering moving in with a partner for some of you, if that's a situation that you have. It could be that maybe a partner is choosing to move out. Now, I do want to say this because I think it's a really important piece, a really important thing to consider. Not every relationship, and this is very true, not every relationship is conventional, right? Some people, I know a lot of really happy couples who live in separate apartments, who live in separate houses. Some of them even live long distance and they make it work. It's not to say that if your partner moves out or you decide that you need space, so you're going to move out, that the relationship is coming to an end. It just means that it's going to evolve in some way. Now, that being said, if you work from home or you're considering a new partnership in work or business, especially around a home-based business or a property-based business, this could come up as part of this retrograde. Now, the retrograde starts from the 26th of February, goes all the way to the 20th, and then it's going to station to go direct on the 21st, so the spring equinox. Now, Venus is very close to this Mercury as this transit begins. And for you, so obviously Venus is in her exaltation when she's in Pisces. So it's going to soften this Mercury retrograde to start with. Since Venus for you rules the 11th of social groups and ties, also social media and the sixth house of work, health and habits. It means that you might find a new connection with a friend or even a family member around these things that could open up new doors, but it's also going to require rethinking and renegotiating of new ideas and terms. I also like this for you re-engaging the world in some way, shape, or form, especially in a local sense or maybe even a social media sense. On the 28th of the month, we've got Mercury retrograde coming into a conjunction with Venus. This conjunction sees this amplified, right? All of the things that I've just talked about, and it's going to have important conversations around your living situation. It might signify the start of, a new start in some regard as well in regards to this. Now, remember, it is a retrograde. So you could be rethinking a home or property matter. You could be rethinking where you're living. Maybe you're renegotiating the lease on your property. Maybe you're refinancing because remember, Venus and Mercury are money planets. So you could be refinancing your home or your mortgage in some way as well. Since this is the start of a new synodic cycle for both of them, and these are like both money planets in some regard, it would not be a surprise if you're considering doubling up or consolidating your resources with another person. And it could be personal, professional, or platonic. It doesn't have to just be with a significant other. On the 4th of March, Mercury is going to oppose the moon. Now, usually I wouldn't talk about this because it's such a fleeting transit, but we are just off, like literally, this is the day after the eclipse, which means it's going to be a bit more tricky and it will likely have a much more emotional sort of leaning to it for you guys. Since the moon is just off the back of an eclipse at this time, and the moon for you rules your eighth house, there might be conversations around joint resources and maybe even spiritual considerations around your career and your family ties at this time. Pay attention to this because it's possible that you could be having talks about an inheritance, maybe something about your parental ties, or maybe serious conversations around money with a parent. Remember as well, it's an opposition, so there could be, you like what you need from a parent versus what is available to you may also come up against each other. On the 5th of March, we've got Mercury retrograde beginning to trine Jupiter, his ruler, your ruler, in the sign of Cancer in your eighth house, right? So this is fourth house, eighth house stuff. So this is like the best part of this transit, I personally feel. It's a trine to Mercury's ruler at this. Jupiter rules your first house and your fourth house. So your identity and your emotions. This could actually bring in some really powerful healing with or around childhood matters or situations. It could be words of apology, a heart to heart with a parent, or maybe just you deciding that the past is no longer going to hold sway over you anymore. Since this is aspecting your ruler who is in his exaltation, you might feel lighter and potentially more emotionally stable, even though both of these planets are retrograde than you have in a long time. And it's because whatever you're talking about or revisiting, it allows you to see it with fresh eyes or new perspective, and it creates a lot more transformation on that inner level. The trine means that the conversation is going to flow easier. A parent, and parents are really able to realign in a much more sort of healing way. I actually really like this for you guys, and I do think it's needed at the moment. Excuse me. On the 7th of March, Mercury is going to go Cazimi. So this often brings a really good idea in or a download of some sort. Since the sun in your chart rules the ninth house, this could be around a publishing idea, a book or a blog. This could be like, and again, remember it's Mercury retrograde. So you're re-engaging with this idea. You're igniting this idea and obviously since obviously was in the background of all of this. I do wonder if like you have a great idea about how to use the power of social media at this time, but it's happening in the fourth house. So it's like you're having to really reconfigure your own beliefs and also your emotional response to things. So, in some way, I think this could be really good for you. It could also be an exploration of some sort around a legal matter that centers around home or property purchases, or potentially even a relocation to, a foreign land or a distant shore, or maybe a connection with somebody who's in a space like that. On the 8th of March, we've got a beautiful Grand Water Trine. Again, it involves Luna. Luna is in Scorpio, so she's not the happiest here, but I do love a Grand Water Trine. I really do. It's like the emotional, social, spiritual lubricant that you need for things to flow really harmoniously. And since this is happening across the 4th, the 8th, and the 12th for you, it's possible that there could be something around an inheritance. Again, this is a fleeting transit with Luna in your 12th house, but you could be gaining some really deep insight into family matters, family patterns, self-sabotaging tendencies. And it's like, because the water is flowing here and it's harmonious, it's like you're able to just really give it some breathing space and say, okay, yes, this hurts, but it doesn't rule me anymore. And I would say use this day to have conversations with parents, family members, that usually would be really taxing because the emotion is flowing, it's harmonious. So you can use this, and you'll be able to do it without being wrung out, and it might bring the healing tears that are needed. Now, that being said, this is a fleeting transit. It's only going to last for the day. My advice to you would be like you use it, you get something out of it, and it could be great. You don't do anything with it, you don't get anything from it, but you don't lose anything either. It's 11:11 as I'm talking about this on the 22nd. So there's clearly a message in there for you. And the next transit that I want to talk about is on the 11th of March. Jupiter, your ruling planet, is going to go direct in your eighth house in the sign of his exaltation. So the opportunities for healing at a very deep psychological level are now going to really amplify. You've probably already done quite a bit of work on this, but it's going to go even further and deeper, I feel. Remember, the eighth house is also big money, chunky money, stocks, shares, bonds, investments. Since this is also the space of inheritances, it could be a matter around all of these things. Whatever the case is, Jupiter rules your first and your fourth. So the emotional and psychological changes that have happened will really begin to bear fruit now. And it's wise to use this time between between now and July the 1st, actually, when Jupiter moves out of his exaltation from your eighth house and into your ninth house, which is going to be fantastic for you anyway. One, because Jupiter's in a fellow fire sign, so it's going to trine you, and two, because it's Jupiter in the ninth house, right? Like Jupiter loves the ninth house, and he does good work in Leo. So on the 14th and the 15th of March, we've got Mercury retrograde coming into a conjunction with Mars. Mars for you rules the 12th house and the 5th house. There could be some kind of personal push that brings an idea to fruition at this time, and there's a lot of determination behind this, and it's happening like in that fourth house. So it's like you've got the emotional grit and depth and determination to see something through. Your emotions are locked on, improving something right now. And another way that you can see this is it could literally just be that you're choosing to improve your home. Maybe you start doing some DIY. Maybe you have some tough conversations with your children if you've got them. It's also possible that you could be a little bit more amped up at this time. So do watch. If you know that there are family members that are able to really press your buttons, this 4 day period between, let's say, the 12th and the 16th, do be a little bit extra conscious. Now, between the 16th and the 20th, as Mercury, slows down and stations to go direct, is going to sit directly on the North Node. So, as this transit completes, there's likely to be some very important conversations around your living situation, all manner of the things that I talked about previously. And you want to think back to the 10th and the 11th of February when Mercury was last on the North Node. What were the conversations around home, property, family, real estate, etc., that were shaping up at that time? Because you're likely to be revisiting them. Sorry, I got an itch in my nose. You're likely to be revisiting those at this time. And also because you'll be having important conversations at this time that have a very emotional energy to them, but a very cathartic one as well. Now, as that completes, if you would like to book a personal session with me to explore this for yourself, you can do so on the link in the description box below. But more importantly, if you haven't got it, if you haven't got yours yet, the Retrograde Survival Kit is up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. This is something that I had to redo, to reconfigure, to redefine. I started working on this in 2019, but there were skills and tools that I needed to gather in order to turn this into what it is today. I'm so proud of this one, and the Retrograde Survival Kit is literally something that will serve you for the rest of your life. Whatever retrograde comes up, it's an inexhaustible tool that does not age. Every time a planet goes retrograde, you're going to be able to delve into this, and every time you use it, you get something different out of it. I know that to be true because I've been using these techniques for myself now for some time. There's a link for that in the description box below. Check it out. It's, as I say, it's the culmination of a lot of work. I'm really, really proud of it, and I really hope that it serves you well. It's on a discounted rate at the moment. You can get it for 225 versus 295 when the sale launch price ends. So be sure to check that out. With that said, let me know in the comments how it shapes up. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi Capricorn, welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So this retrograde for you is going to be taking place in your third house of communications, conversations. It's an interesting one as well because even though this is the sign of Pisces, Mercury is very much, Mercury has an affinity to the third house, right? They're not the same thing, but they definitely have a combination, combinatory. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. They've definitely got an energy that is complementary. That's what I was looking for. So this Mercury retrograde has a very interesting flavor for you because it's bringing reconnection with siblings, cousins, and neighbors, maybe even a mending of ties, like if you've fallen out with siblings, if you've had issues with cousins, neighbors, etc. This could go a long way to mending those ties and those relationships. It could also see you rethinking what you do, rethinking the work that you do, both on a daily level and in your local area. It's also worth noting that this could bring challenges with and to technology, and especially to any vehicles that you have, because the third house is cars. So do watch out for that. Since Mercury for you rules the sixth house and the ninth house, it's possible that there could be some completion to contractual matters of a legal nature. That's very possible. It's also likely that you're going to be rethinking some form of study, or at least recommencing some kind of leveling up of your skills. This is going to see you really putting, because the thing is, Capricorn's really, like, you guys value education. And I think this is going to really lean into that for you. There could be some kind of legal or commercial matter to attend to. While it's a good time to complete a contract or to wrap up a project, it's not necessarily the best time to initiate one unless you were born under a Mercury retrograde. Since the sixth house is also tied in, you might need to think about both your physical and your mental health at this time. Now, this transit starts on the 26th of Feb. It's going to go all the way through to the 20th of March. 21st of March is going to station to go direct. Venus is very close to Mercury as this begins the transit, and she's in her exaltation. So I think there's going to be some nice things that come out of this for you. Since Venus rules your career sector and also your creative and your pleasure house, you might feel really creative and even potentially even quite poetic at this time. Like you might feel that writing, like creative writing, content creation, any form of creativity that really reigns supreme at this moment in time. And honestly, it would be the perfect tonic to your soul through the madness of what's unfolding in the world. You might find that you come up with some really deep, really profound ideas. If you've ever thought that you want to do some kind of content creation, third house is absolutely those things, so get stuck into it. On the 28th of February, Mercury is going to conjunct Venus. This conjunction sees a melding of minds, a mending of words, or even differing opinions that spark some really healthy conversation and debate that potentially bring healing and insight. Now, again, this is a time for you to focus more on the intuitive. Mercury is the planet of the mind. He's in the third house, and the intuition could be really good right now. So you must trust it. In fact, that's where you're going to find the answers that you need. It's not going to be, you guys like the logic. So you're going to have to embrace some of the woo for a minute, okay? Now, on the 4th of March, Mercury is going to oppose the moon. Now, usually this is very fleeting, so I wouldn't really highlight it because the moon moves so quickly. But we are just off the back of an eclipse, which does suggest to me that whatever conversation comes up right now, it will be a little bit more tender because we're off the back of the eclipse. The moon is going to be in your ninth house at this time, still very strong. So she's going to be highlighting how your beliefs shape your world. And as the ruler of your seventh house of relationships and partnerships, some really deep insight around why your relationships end up the way that they do, or why you attract certain types of partners, why you've been in the relationship that you're in, why you're still single. This could very well be like, it could also, yeah, it could also be like really deeply insightful. And because of the energy of the eclipse having just sort of shown up, a legal matter might come to a conclusion, or you could be stating, like, starting to give really serious thought to a big move, potentially like one that is abroad or overseas in some way. Now, on the 5th of March, Mercury is going to trine Jupiter, who is also retrograde in the sign of Cancer in your seventh house. So this is a trine between the third and the seventh. And for me, this is like the best part of this transit. Social connections, sibling connections, sibling reunions, relationships around parents, around business or business partners as well could really be returning and redefined at this moment in time. It's possible as well that some of you could bump into someone in your local area that you haven't seen for a long time, especially because Jupiter for you rules both the third house and the 12th. So I love this for repairing sibling relationships, cousins, neighbors as well. I love this for helpful support both in person and in spirit. I don't know, it just feels like there's going to be like a really nice sense of optimism here. Now, on the 7th of March, Mercury's going to go Cazimi in your third house. Third house is about ideas anyway. It's a mind house, right? And so this transit usually brings in a good idea or an important conversation or a moment of illumination that comes through conversation. And I've had this myself where it's like I'll be having a conversation with someone, and this is on a Kazemi, by the way. And then something will like we'll have the conversation. It's not necessarily anything that they said that is particularly profound, but it's how your mind basically says like, oh, okay, it clicks something else into place. Now, since the sun for you in your chart rules the eighth house, this could be a very spiritual experience that you could have. Could be an amazing conversation that you have with a mentor, a coach, or even a grandparent. It might have a financial slant to it, and when it does come through, it might set you on a path that clears that clears an idea of how to proceed in matters of mutual reserves, monies, all of that kind of stuff. And it might also see you kind of say to yourself, you know what, now I understand how to heal myself. Now I understand what it is that I need to do in order to really be free of my past or whatever issue it is that's sort of held me back. Now, on the 8th of March, the moon is going to be in Scorpio. We've got Mercury retrograde in Pisces in your third house. And we've also got Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. Now, this is Luna in her fall. She's not necessarily happy in Scorpio, but this is a grand water trine, and it's a beautiful one at that. Across your third, seventh, and 11th houses, this is a day of friendship, connections, and interactions. It's a great day to reach out to old friends or people that you've missed, people that you would love to reconnect with. I do maintain that I think of all of the signs, you are the one most likely to bump into somebody from the past, very much out of the blue or seemingly so, and potentially in a place that you really don't expect it. Like, so you could just be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, do you know, like, what are the odds that you would be here, right? On the 11th of March, Jupiter, the ruler of this Mercury retrograde, is going direct in your seventh house. This will be a welcome reprieve for everybody, and this is now going to mend or smooth off any relationships, any rough edges that you have in relationships, personal, professional, platonic. The thing is, he brings cohesion and will heal whatever is needed healing. That said, if you have found a relationship challenging, Jupiter expands what's already there. So this could be a time where you realize like what the issues have been, and it becomes easier for you to go your separate ways. On the 14th and the 15th of the month, we've got Mars coming into a conjunction with this Mercury retrograde. Since Mars rules your fourth house of home, property, real estate, family connections, and emotional foundation, it also rules your 11th house. Matters around your future, the future of your living situation could really shift at this time. Maybe you get really proactive about something, or something comes to a close or a completion, or it boils to a head. It's possible that you could be feeling quite resolute around something, and you might have a very intense conversation about where you live, how you live there, who you live with. As Mercury rules that ninth and the sixth houses, there could be background vibes that see you gathering information slowly but surely in order for you to move forward with some plan that you either have, for later in life, or maybe even around a career opportunity. Finally, or between the 16th and the 20th, as Mercury slows down and stations to go direct, as this transit begins to wrap up, Mercury is sat directly on the North Node. And really, you do want to pay attention to the conversations, especially around legal, contractual, professional situations, because fated and amplified conversations could be taking place right now. Think back to the 10th and the 11th of February, because you're likely to be revisiting conversations that you were having around then, or they are completing at this time. Now, and then on the 21st, Mercury goes direct. If you would like to see how this is going to affect you personally, if you want to get an astrology, astro tarot reading with me, you can do so on the link in the description box below. But if you haven't seen it, the retrograde survival kit is up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. This is the reconfiguring, the refining, and the releasing finally of six plus years worth of work for me. I came up with this idea and I put it out the first time in 2019, but it has evolved since then because I have evolved. I've put so much more in this. You're going to get so much as part of this. You get planetary prayer so that you can really remediate this work. So you're going to get energy work, you get insights on the planets. There's just a ton of stuff in there, and I'm really, really proud of this work. So, and also because of the way that I've designed it, This will not age, right? Like it's inexhaustible. Every time a planet goes retrograde, oh yes, it's not just for Mercury. You get all of the planetary retrograde support that you need. So, and obviously Venus is going to go retrograde later this year. That's going to be a whole other kettle of fish, right? So if you want to get ahead of and prepare for and become an active participant in your retrograde experiences, there's a link in the description box below. Check that out. It's currently 225 versus 295. The price will go up after the launch window ends, so do check that out. Let me know in the comments how it shapes up. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi, Aquarius, my sun sign brothers and sisters. Welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So, we're going to get straight into it. So, this Mercury retrograde for you is happening in your second house of money. Money, 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 money. Anyway, so in the second house of money, finances, and resources. Now, for you, Mercury rules the fifth house and also your eighth houses, which are also, interestingly enough, indirectly at least, monetary houses. Now, that being said, this is for a lot of you, you've been going through it with this eclipse series when it comes to your second and eighth houses. So you might have found it hard to sort of regulate finances, not necessarily that you haven't got money or whatever, but it's like as soon as you know, make a big saving or make a big chunk of money, it's like something comes up and swallows it away. As is the story with the eclipses in the second and eighth houses, it tends to put you in line and in place for regulating your finances, right? Now, that being said, this I have noticed for a lot of you, it hasn't played out just through the financial situation. For a lot of you, this will have been big shifts in both personal values and self-worth realization. It'll also be a huge recalibration in this area, and this Mercury retrograde in the same place is bringing like a similar theme to light in some regard. This is where you're thinking to yourself, like your outlook and your self-expression. You're realizing that what you have to say is valuable. Remember, Mercury's a microphone, so you're rethinking what you're saying and how you're saying it, and how the value and the worth in your words and the communications and the ideas that you have. Fifth house, you know, Mercury rules the fifth. The ideas that you have, and you're realizing that your own creative spin on things is unique and potentially quite lucrative. Now, I think many of you are about to start sharing things on a deeper level, and by being brave and like daring enough to start sharing more things, it's potentially going to help you make some serious bank here. I do wonder if a lot of you might begin sort of opening up around big or hard topics. Since Mercury rules the fifth and the eighth houses for you, there's definitely a double financial layer to this, since the fifth house is anything speculative and is also very lucky, and eighth house is joint resources. This could be a new, like a new financial partnership that comes up on the books that serves you incredibly well. It's a great time to be on the lookout for opportunities and lucky moments, things like lotteries, etc. This is a retrograde in the second house of money, finances, resources, your possessions, which means you're rethinking these things right now and reframing how you see money, how you see worth, how you see value, which like in turn obviously makes you see your own worth differently. And it's like you figure out new ways to turn whatever you feel about you is valuable into money. So there could be a lot of discussions about inheritances as well. That's very possible. Now, this Mercury retrograde starts on the 26th. It goes all the way through to the 20th of March. It's going to station to go direct on the 21st of March. With Venus very close to this retrograde as it begins as ruler of your fourth house and your ninth houses, there's likely to be matters of or around a property coming up at this time, especially since the second house is your possession. So the second house, like if you own your own home, the second house is a property house for you. This could be especially true for you, like if you are a homeowner. Venus is a benefic and in her exaltation in the second house, which means whatever you like, whatever money you need around such matters, the money that you need is available to you at this time. Mercury retrograde will will come into the conjunction with Venus on the 28th of February. So this brings some nice conversation that might have you reaching an agreement that is satisfactory for all involved. As ruler of your ninth house, it's possible that this could be around a legal matter of some sort, maybe even around some form of travel. For a lot of you, you might be looking at travel plans or looking to return to a place that you've already traveled to. If you're working on a visa or a passport application or anything like that, this does suggest that while it is a Mercury retrograde, it will go in your favor. So it's about you learning to use the charm offensive more than anything, Aquarius. And we know you can be very charming when you want to. Yes, you can. All right, now for on the 4th of March. Mercury is going to come into an opposition with the moon. Now, usually I wouldn't mention this, it's a fleeting transit, but we are just off the back of an eclipse. The eclipse is on the 3rd, Mercury opposes the moon on the 4th. So across your 2nd and 8th houses, just off the back of this eclipse, Luna is strong, right? She's still in this place. She's highlighting matters to do with joint finances, mutual resources, big money, taxes, loans, debts, inheritances. What is very interesting to me is that the retrograde itself is focused on your money, but the eclipse and therefore its opposition are saying it's not your own money you need to pay attention to, it's that of others as well. So this might be matters around things like an estate. It may be that you're dealing with legal matters and proceedings as well at this time. There's a message in here about how other people see your worth and value and how you need to let them come correct when that is the case. Like if you're going to treat me a certain way, if you're going to interact with me, then you better come correct with how you value me, right? Because if you don't, I'm gonna vibrate cleaner fuck out of your life. Since the 8th house is also a psychological house, your own money psychology is very likely going to be shifting at this time. Remember, this is the final eclipse in the sign of Virgo, so you're done with this axis now for the next. I mean, you've got one more to come in August, which is a Pisces eclipse in this 2nd house, actually, interestingly enough. So the work that you do as part of this Mercury retrograde now is really going to set the tone for real financial abundance, prosperity, etc. as you move forward. Now, as your ruler, as the moon, sorry, rules your 6th house, it could also be that there's a burden that you refuse to take on and it doesn't win you any friends, particularly probably with or around family matters. But it's like, listen, you know what? If it ain't mine to carry, it ain't mine to carry. That's it. Like, end of story. You don't get to tell me what I will and won't take on. Okay. On the 5th of March, Mercury retrograde is going to come into a trine with its ruler because Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces. Mercury is going retrograde in Pisces. Jupiter is also retrograde in the sign of Cancer in your 6th house. So this is the best part of this transit. Mercury and Jupiter coming into a trine, Jupiter in his exaltation. They're talking to each other in a way that they can understand. It's not a mutual reception, unfortunately, but it is a trine, so we'll take it. Mercury is going to trine with that Jupiter energy across your 6th and your 2nd houses, which means that work opportunities are likely coming back to you or back around in some way, shape, or form. I do think that it's possible that both Mercury and his current ruler are retrograde, that old opportunities are coming in, people that you used to work with, people that you used to collaborate with, that's all very possible as well. Because obviously, remember, Mercury rules the 5th and the 8th houses for you, right? So a trine is easy, harmonious energy that comes in. And these two are speaking together in a way that means money and resources are available through opportunities that are coming in for you at this time. So pay attention to them. On the 7th of March, we've got Mercury going Cazimi. Mercury conjuncts the ruler of your 7th house every so often. The sun in your chart rules the 7th house of relationships, partnerships, connections, significant others, contracts, and commitments. So I do wonder if what unfolds here is that an idea that once seemed impossible or outlandish now suddenly becomes very viable to and for you. And it creates a firm pathway for you to pursue a goal in a way that you never would have done before. It could also be through a conversation with a really good friend or a significant other or even a business partner. Something becomes really clear to you and it's like you will need to wait till later to action this because obviously Mercury is still retrograde, but it's there, right? It's like you've got the bare bones of it. Now, it might also be a realization that relationships or around relationships in general, or the understanding of that one of them needs to shift. Your sex life could be getting a much needed boost after this as well. TMI, Raf. Come on, man. On the 8th of it's been out like the Sahara out here, boy. Listen, for on the 8th of March, we've got the moon in Scorpio, so this is Luna in her full. We've got Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces, we've got Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Cancer. This is a beautiful grand water trine across your second, sixth, and 10th houses. It's fleeting. If it's there, it's beautiful flowing energy. If you do nothing with it, you get nothing from it. If you do nothing with it, you lose nothing, right? But if you do something with it, you stand to gain something. This could be around career and work and also your daily life that really gets a boost. It could be that you make or forge a connection with somebody or a reconnection with somebody in your locality, in your local area. Could be a really nice opportunity to get a good little cash boost, but it will require you to feel it out. And my advice to you around this would be, if it feels good and it feels harmonious and nothing about it is jangly and it flows, then it's absolutely the way for you to go. But you're going to have to listen to your intuition to really feel it out. This is not a, you are the bridge between logic and intuition. Like people that always say, like, oh, Aquarius is just a cerebral sign, doesn't understand the sign of Aquarius, quite frankly. We are and can be all encompassing, but we are very selective with what and who we feel about. Use your feelings on this one. On the 11th of March, Jupiter's going to go direct in your sixth house, right? So Jupiter going direct is always welcome, and now he is complete in this retrograde cycle. We're one step closer to this year truly getting underway. The second milestone will be at the end of this particular retrograde, right? So once we get to the 21st of March, you're going to see 2026 is going to take a whole fucking leap forward, right? Going direct in your sixth house will likely pick up steam from here on in. You'll be able to start moving on opportunities that have unfolded or things that have been stagnant or stalled or maybe even delayed in some way. You might also find that health matters truly begin to improve here. That said, Jupiter can also bring a greater sense of cohesion to whatever or to how you're spending your days. So you might find that you've been cleaning up your routines, you've been, slowly but surely doing this, and then it lagged in the middle. But then once Jupiter goes direct, it's like you'll really start to see things move forward then. On the 14th and 15th of March, Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with Mars. Now, Mars in your chart rules the third house and the 10th house. These are spaces of outward communication, and in some way, shape, or form, they are public facing houses. Since Mars, Mercury, and obviously Mercury rules your fifth and your eighth houses, there could be some interesting conversations that may get heated with siblings or with neighbors at this time, so watch out for that. It's also possible that there's some kind of action that is demanded from you and it doesn't sort of go well, right? Never demand anything of an Aquarius, they'll do what they want. It might be by now in life, you've probably realized that most people only see what they see after the fact, whereas your blessing and your burden is that you can see ahead of time, right? We have that wonderful gift of foresight. And so you might find that you're just going to have to let something play out and just know at this time there will probably be pressure from the outside, but it's like you don't care about that. Like I feel like this is like whatever it is that unfolds, it's like something or someone is trying to really maneuver you or manipulate you, and you're just not open for it. And you're seeing a situation play out, and it's like usually you would want to go in and help them, or maybe that person would be like, oh, can you help me? Like, this is happening, woe is me. And this time you're just like, no, you know what? I'm going to let you pick up the slack on this one. Uh, that said, from the 12th to the 16th, let's say, those could be sort of tender days. So do watch communication because it could be a little bit, it could be a bit Five of Swords. Yeah. Now, on the 16th, or so between the 16th and the 20th, Mercury is going to slow right down, but he's going to be sat directly on the North Node, and then obviously on the 21st, is going to go direct. As this transit completes, Mercury sitting on that North Node in your second house of money, finances, resources. This is going to be amplifying your earning potential, but it's also going to do even more for you moving forward. As this comes to a close, you are probably invited and encouraged to be aware of any and all conversations around money, possessions, self-worth. It could also be fated and destined conversations that lead you down a path that really skyrockets your earning potential in some way. Now, as I was writing the notes for this, I put this here. I don't know why, but as I was writing this, this popped into my head. Doing what you do out in the open is going to provide you with an opportunity, but you need to be willing to shine, and therefore you need to be willing to be visible. So whatever that means to you, whoever that message is for, you've got it right now. You've got it. And I think as this transit of Mercury retrograde completes, you're going to be seeing that. You'll feel it because you'll be like, right, okay, now I understand what this actually means for me. That being said, 21st, Mercury goes direct. If you would like to book a personal session with me so that you can dig into this and so much more, there's a link in the description box below. If you would like to take this even further and you want to start becoming an active participant of your retrograde experience, the retrograde survival kit is up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. You can get that on the link in the description box below. This is a redefining, reconfiguring, and releasing of 6+ years worth of work for me. I had the original idea for this in 2019, and I've been working on it and refining it, and this really felt like the right time to put it out. This will serve you for the rest of your life. You're going to get planetary prayers, you're going to get trips, hacks, hints, and all of that good stuff. You're going to get energy work. Trust me, there's so much in this. It's currently 225 for the launch. It will go up to 295. If you want to get the outer planets and complete the bundle, there's an add-on as well, so check that out. This is inexhaustible, meaning it won't age. Every single time a planet goes retrograde for you, oh yes, it's not just Mercury retrogrades. This is every single planetary retrograde that will ever happen. You have this toolbox to serve you through that process. With that said, let me know how your Mercury retrograde goes. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Hi Pisces, welcome to your Mercury retrograde special. So this Mercury retrograde is taking place in your first house. It's taking place in your sign. It's in the space of your identity, your thoughts and your considerations around yourself. You're going to be rethinking your identity, and the thoughts that you have about yourself are likely to come to light at this time. Now remember, in your chart, Mercury rules your fourth house because it rules Gemini, and it also rules your seventh house because it also rules Virgo, right? So I think this is changing who you are, Pisces, and not in like this dramatic fashion, like you're going through this huge glow up, but it's like you're rethinking all of the parts of yourself that feel like you should no longer belong to others, right? Like this is where yeah, you could say you're taking your power back, but I think it's more than that. I think this is about you bringing your focus back to yourself. Mercury as the ruler of your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, but also your ancestry and your deep emotional foundation, is seeing you reshape your connection to these things, as well as having conversations that see you changing how you see your partnerships. It could be through conversations with a parent. It can like that you see a relationship very differently. It could be that through a partnership or a business contact that you come to see your home life very differently. I do wonder if the details around your living situation are like about to shift in some kind of big way. It could be big news around a parent that shapes how you move forward on something, and it could also be that you're reconsidering what is actually important to you. Now, this transit lasts from the 26th of February through to the 21st of March. It will station to go direct on the 21st of March. Now, as this transit begins, Venus is going to be in her sign of exaltation, you guessed it, in your first house, close to this retrograde beginning, which means she's adding her beneficence to this transit. Now, being in your first house, she's beautifying you, she's making you more attractive, she's making you more attracted as well, she's making you more harmonious and more diplomatic, but she's also allowing other people to see you as that. and it's going to give you a greater advantage to get what you need. Now, Venus for you rules your third house of commercial activities, sales, interviews, and all manner of communication, as well as the mind, and the eighth house of your mutual resources and money, as well as inheritances and spiritual and personal power. So on the 28th of February, Mercury is going to conjunct Venus, and this conjunction is going to heighten all of this, and it will see a new beginning unfolding in your work sphere. And I say this because Mercury and Venus are now beginning a new cycle of their own. This could be a moment where something takes place, or at least like a seed is planted. And being the ruler of your third and your eighth houses, it means that it's bringing a greater consideration into everything that you're really thinking about, that you're really, bringing back to yourself in some way. It means that a mate or a friend or like in your locality could be helping you undergo a transformation of some sort. Maybe it's a gym journey, maybe it's like maybe something that you're working with somebody in your locality. And because the third house is also siblings, this could be siblings, cousins, and neighbors. Is basically what I'm trying to say is, even though this transit is about you, there is a partner up or a buddy up. It's kind of like a Wonder Twins activate. Sorry, I'm a massive nerd, but right, like this is definitely one of those moments, and use it as such. Now, on the 4th of March, Mercury is going to oppose the moon. Usually I wouldn't sort of highlight this because the moon moves so quickly that it's fleeting, right? Just like our emotions, they wax and they wane. However, this is the day after the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. This is the moon in your seventh house of relationships. If you're partnered, this could be a very tender day. And I say this to watch how you speak to each other. If your partner is speaking to you in a way that makes you feel some kind of way, consider that the emotion is heightened. Adjust how you approach it, or maybe say to them, look, the way that you're speaking to me at the moment makes me feel some kind of way. Is everything all right? Like, is there something that we need to talk out? Because you might find that things are very much to the surface at this time, and an opposition is a time where you can't get around it. You just have to deal with it head on. Since the moon rules your fifth house of joy, creativity, pleasure, sex, romance, and all of that good stuff, there might be something around children if you've got them. If you don't, then this could be around a personal business. If you don't have that, or maybe you have that as well, maybe you even have children, but there's still a matter around sex, sensuality, or connection that really needs to be considered. It might see you thinking really deeply about the nature of relationships and how you use your days. Now, on the 5th of March, Mercury is going to begin his trine to Jupiter, who is also retrograde in the sign of Cancer, over there in your fifth house. So this is across the first house and the fifth house. These are houses of your identity, and the trine between these two is probably the best part about this transit, because Jupiter is currently the ruler. So Jupiter is the ancient ruler of your sign, Pisces. So you are a Jupiter ruled person. Since it's in a trine to this Mercury that's happening in your first house, it's really sending you positive energy. And I feel like for you, this is a chance to connect with the right kind of people, since it's happening across that first and fifth houses. It could be really great news or opportunities that are coming in or with or around children if you have them, especially if you are creative. Like if you work in a creative field or capacity in some way, this could be fantastic for you. And old opportunities, since they are both retrograde, to express yourself or even to highlight something that you've already done or created are coming through. I really like this for connecting with old partners in business and work, even if, or even people that you used to enjoy hobbies with. And if you do return and like feel that need to return to a hobby, like I always say, like I used to dance. Maybe you're going back to dance, maybe you're going back to bowling, maybe you're going back to gymnastics, maybe like whatever it is. If there's something that you used to love doing, this is the time for you to get back to it. On the 7th of March, we've got Mercury going Cazimi in your sign. The sun for you rules the sixth house. Of your work habits, day-to-day patterns, habits, and routines. This could be a conversation with a work colleague or a friend that really sparks a brilliant idea, or you could now realize what it is that you need to do to bring an idea around your identity or presenting yourself in a new way that allows you to really be seen. And the power in this is really about realizing what you need to improve in some area of your life as it pertains to your personality and also specifically to you. you. It's a strong moment for you, Pisces. And I have to say, like, if especially because you've got Venus in you, like moving through your sign as well, if like, really helping, really doing the thing. And this Cazimi is often a brilliant idea or an illuminating conversation. On the 8th of March, we're going to have the moon in Scorpio in your ninth house. We'll have Mercury retrograde in your sign, and then we've got Jupiter retrograde in your fifth house. This is a beautiful grand water trine across the first, the fifth, and the ninth. Fifth and ninth houses are the two luckiest houses in the chart. It means that you have a day where things really work out and they flow your way in all areas of life, like in these areas of life. This could be some kind of personal growth or expansion. It's a great day for you to begin a therapeutic process or a therapy journey, or even just to do some journaling to get deeper insights on like where you're actually at and what direction you really want to go in for yourself, not because anyone else told you. It's a fleeting transit. Remember, the moon moves so quickly. If you do nothing with it, you get nothing from it. If you do nothing with it, you lose out on nothing. On the 11th of March, Jupiter, your ruler, is going to go direct. And this is great for you because it means if you've had any of that sort of fog, sort of, I'm not sure, I don't know, I'm unsure, I'm second guessing, this is where you will get back to a greater sense of self, and it means you'll be a lot clearer on things. You might not be able to action things around career or identity just yet because the chances are there's still more to unfold. Obviously, Mercury's still retrograde in your sign, but I would say use this next 5 months of Jupiter being in your fifth house and your sign of exaltation, because this is where the good stuff is really going to happen. And it's going to be like, who are you? Like, what do you really want to share with the world? Because the fifth house is self-expression. Trust that who you are deserves to shine. And as Jupiter rules your career, your 10th house, this is a time to start thinking about who and like about what it is that you can offer that literally nobody else can do, right? Start from there. Now, on the 14th and the 15th of March, Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with Mars. Mars is the ruler of your money and your beliefs, and these two can often get conflated and tangled. So, this could be a time where conversations around money get a little bit tense. It might be where you start to understand that you're being undervalued in some way, and that maybe and maybe that you're not prepared for it. So, you start building a pathway slowly but surely that changes the direction in some regard. It could be a difference of opinions, and any and all teachers, mentors, and coaches and gurus that just don't seem to be as supportive as they can. At this time, you might kind of say, like, actually, this is not cool, right? I do feel that for some of you, this is a chance that there's going to be a clash with someone who challenges your beliefs or your ideas of self. And it could be because they touch a nerve, right? It could also be because you see something in yourself that needs to change, but it's like you refuse to do it because you like it the way that it is. And as a difference of opinions around money sort of opens up, you might find that there's something that you feel really strongly enough about to sort of really push back on. Um, I've got a lot that I really want to say on that, but it's not my place, so I'm just going to stay quiet. On this, between the 16th and the 20th of March, we have Mercury slowing down to go direct, and then on the 21st of March, you'll station direct. As this transit completes, Mercury is going to be sat directly on the North Node in your first house, and it's likely that you'll be having very important, potentially fated and destined conversations around your identity, around your family ties, and your relationships, personal, professional, or platonic. This is going to be a stealthy one for you guys, and I'm meaning that I think it's going to pack more of a punch than expected because it's just a right? It's just a Mercury retrograde, right? Famous last words. But I think this one is going to bring up some stuff. It could just as easily be around a significant relationship or both. Could just as easily be around something to do with home, property, real estate, or family, and especially around parents or even relationships with parents. It could be in the realm of business partnerships and connections as well. Whatever it is, it will have its roots and its echo in the 10th and the 11th of February. So think back to then. What were the conversations that you were having? What was important to you at the time? Now, If you would like to book a personal astrology astro tarot session with me, you can do so on the link in the description box below. If you haven't got it yet, and if you haven't heard about it, have you been living under a rock? The retrograde survival kit is up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. I'm so proud of this one. It's the culmination of work that I started in 2019. I have refined it, I've redesigned it, and now I am releasing it back into the world, changed and anew. You get planetary prayers, you get energy work, you get insights on the planets, you get, oh, just trust me, I've put a ton of stuff into this. Now, excuse me. This one does not age. It's not a one and done. This is inexhaustible. It's a toolbox that you will have for every single planetary retrograde. Oh, yes. This is not just about Mercury. This is for Venus retrogrades, Jupiter retrograde, Pluto retrogrades, if you buy the add-on. So check that out. There's a link in the description box below. It's currently 225 versus 295, which is what it will go up to. Even then, I still think this is a bargain, just saying. Right, so make sure you check that out. With that said, let me know how this Mercury retrograde reaches and finds you. Let me know in the comments. Take care, and I'll see you soon.